AL Central Rundown. With me today is Dan, Lee, in a moment, Ty, and a phrase I've always wanted to say, reporting live from spring training, Sam.
Hey, how you doing? I'm live down here in Surprise, Arizona.
Could you at least get a wooden spoon or something so you can really feel official? Or you should have brought one of your work microphones, assuming you had one.
No, unfortunately, I didn't bring any microphone equipment. The sports people who I work with asked me to shoot some video of the stadium and the game while I'm there, so that they can use it for general spring training B-roll for their news stories coming up. But no, on vacation right now here in Surprise, Arizona, here at spring training, and it's been a real pleasure, a real blast so far. Oh, and here's my mother who's joining me right now. How you doing, Mom?
I'm good. Hello, everybody.
Yeah, we're here in Surprise, Arizona. We're here at spring training, and we're having a great time.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've never been to spring training, mainly because I'm very I really can't. I refuse to step foot in Florida, so it's going to be a real test of my fanhood. So being in Arizona seems like it would be much better. But how is it? What's the vibe? Meeting? Have you met players? So how was going to the stadium? All of that.
Yeah, I will say we got here Thursday evening. We landed here in Arizona. I thought it was funny because when we were driving away from the airport, one of the first things that we saw was a billboard asking us if we had any information on the whereabouts of Nancy Guthrie. Unfortunately, I do not have any information on the whereabouts of Nancy Guthrie. Haven't seen her, don't know where she's at. But someone, as I was leaving from work, someone asked me if I was going to Arizona to look for her. So no, cannot give any updates on that case.
Would be a big story, though.
Would be a big story, though. I would love to get that $1 million reward, but I don't think that's in my future right now. But it's been good. Vibes have been good. We went to a game on Thursday. Went to the Surprise Stadium, which I have to say really was a really nice stadium, really blew my expectations away. Just a really nice spring training stadium. You kind of have the Royals side and the Rangers side because the Royals share it with the Rangers. And it was a fun time. It was a fun atmosphere. The only complaint that I have about the game that we went to on this was the game on Friday, Eric. The only complaint that I have about the game that we went to was the people who were sitting behind us were a couple of very old people who would not stop talking.
In Arizona? I'm shocked.
In Arizona, old people who would not stop talking, who went, "Oh, is that Jonathan India? I didn't recognize him. I didn't know he cut his hair. Oh, he plays for this team now? I didn't know that. I thought he was still with Dodgers. Oh." And so that went on for a while. And at one point during the game that we were at on Friday, Bobby Witt Jr. hit a home run. And the woman who was sitting behind us was like, "Oh, I bet these people from Kansas City are so happy that they got to see Witt hit a home run during today's game."
Screw those people, though. Oh, God.
And I wanted to just be like, yes, actually, I am. I'm quite happy about that I got to see that. But putting that aside, we got to see some good players during Friday's game. Kind of got the A-team lineup during that game. Sally was out there, Bobby Witt Jr. was out there, Vinny was out there, and got to see some good action there. And then went to a game today. We just got back from the game about a half hour ago that we went to. That was against the Brewers on Sunday. That game was a little bit quieter, a little bit slower paced. The Royals won 3-1. They won both games that we've been to so far. And in these two games, I got to say, Jonathan India, haircut, really working out. He's looking good in these first two games that we've seen. So, yeah, it's been good vibes. I like the stadium. Surprise Stadium's a really, really nice venue. Yeah, all in all, really good time here in the spring training.
Yeah.
That's fun.
So they have had a little bit of news. I have a ghost door opening up behind me if anyone sees on camera. So if my camera cuts, I'm probably not good news for me. Anyway, well, there was a little bit of news that kind of broke over the last couple of days, and that the Royals have actually signed a major league contract 3 weeks into camp. It's a name we all know, Sterling Marte. I don't believe they said it's a major league contract, but I don't think
They have said it is a major league contract, yes.
And that's it, no dollar amount, which is whatever.
I don't know if that's been put out yet, but it is a major league deal.
Yeah. Pick a number between 1 and 10 million, and you nailed it. Whatever you would like to use. So he's been a very good center fielder, outfielder for most of his career. You can kind of see a career 39 overall WAR on Baseball Reference. Has a career 114 OPS plus. That's been pretty static for him throughout his career. He had 111 last year. Sam, do you know what the role they're planning for him? I kind of assume they were set. This makes a lot of sense, though, considering last year in the outfield and the corners.
Yeah, I would imagine, from what I saw today from Isaac Collins, he's 0 for 6 going into the game today in spring training. He struck out a couple times today. Lane Thomas has kind of been and I think the Royals are maybe looking at the guys who they brought in, and they're saying, hey, maybe we might need to have someone who we can fall back on in case these guys don't work out. And I think Starling Marte is a solid MLB player, decent MLB player. And look, he's going to be in his age 37 season coming up this year. And that's not particularly young, but last year the Royals brought in a guy who was in his age 35 season in Mike Yastrzemski, and he ended up being pretty good for the Royals. So Starling Marte, that's not a name that's going to, jump off the page or anything. But I do think he's a guy who, hey, if things don't work out with some of these guys that they've brought in, he's another option. And, maybe he ends up being a bench guy or a fourth outfielder. But I think they're just kind of bringing him in just as they're getting the lay of the land here.
Yeah.
He raises the floor at the very minimum, right? Like, whoever he's replacing, he's going to be better than. It just raises slightly above average bat, or even an average bat is fine.
I mean, last week the Guardians signed Rhys Hoskins. This week, the Royals signed their version of Rhys Hoskins to me. A position of need. I mean, he's a decent. At least last year for Savant, he was 0 outs above average. Decent arm strength. Not much for speed anymore, but as you would expect for someone who's 37 years old. He has, I mean, I'm only assuming he's a fourth outfielder. He's only averaged 350 plate appearances the last 3 years. What is interesting, he really doesn't have platoon splits. They're both within like 15 points of each other, both for his career and in the last 3 years. So like that's good to know, I guess, that you can just kind of plug and play him. So whoever needs a day off or whatever, he's not a bad option for them. Even just looking at his other numbers that I like to look at, expecting slug and off individual pitches. I mean, 413 off a fastball, that's really the indicator for me for 37 years old. If you can still keep up with the fastball, his expected batting average is 243. Don't know what more you wanted from him or what you can really expect for him at this point. It is possible that, I mean, he's 37. March he might be good April 1st, and by April 3rd he might be completely washed. You don't know, but
yeah,
this makes a lot of sense to me.
I think it makes a lot of sense. And look, we know what the Royals outfield situation is, right? And we also know that Alex Gordon ain't walking through that door, right? Lorenzo Cain ain't walking through that door. Bo Jackson ain't walking through that door. So you need someone who can potentially be an insurance policy for you as you go forward.
I was going to bring up, Marte played 12 games in the outfield last year. That's it. And so most of his time came at DH. Sam, I've heard you say multiple times on this show that the Royals don't need a DH.
No.
And I take you at your word for that. But they're going to probably have to play him in left field then. And the thing I had forgotten about is they've brought the fences in, which I would be very concerned in that spacious outfield last year. Maybe it doesn't matter as much this year. And maybe that's just a calculated risk the Royals are willing to take because they need the offense.
Well, the center field wall is still at the same depth. So I don't think they're going to be playing him at center field. It'll be likely if he gets some playing time, it'll be at one of the fences that they brought in over the offseason. So yeah, no, that's an excellent point. And I think the other thing is, you got to find something, and you're rolling the dice on Lane Thomas, and you're rolling the dice on Isaac Collins, and I guess now you're rolling the dice on Starling Marte. Is there a 25% chance for each of these guys, a 33% chance on each of these guys that they have a bounce back season or a productive season? Maybe. But if you bring in three guys and they each have, a 20 to 30% chance that they're going to work out, well, then you just increase your odds there. So I think it definitely is a good move. It's not a move that I would, if you had told me that this was going to be something the Royals were going to do 2 months ago, I probably would have said, maybe let's look somewhere else. But, it is what it is at this point. And really, to be honest, Starling Marte, he was the last guy who was available. So I think it's a good move, and, we'll see if it works out, but it is what it is.
Yeah, like last week with Hoskins, low risk. If he ain't cutting it, it's a major league contract, but I'm going to assume it's not for much. So,
yeah,
whatever.
I'm going to say it's probably somewhere between $1 and $4 million.
If you're feeling generous, he got 6, but Josh Bell made 7 in December. Sterling Marte did not make 7.
I think they would have publicized it if it was more than $1 million. I really do. To me, that screams to me that it's not a lot.
I think it's slightly above league minimum type deal.
Yeah.
I would imagine that it's somewhere around there. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with him.
So the other one little piece of news, and then I kind of want to talk about ABS because Sam actually saw it in person, and that's kind of fun. And then we've had a week to kind of look, and also Statcast or Savant is tracking it, so I think that's kind of cool. But for news that might matter or might not matter, Melton for the Tigers has the very ominous elbow inflammation, which is
elbow strain, not inflammation. It's an elbow strain.
Okay, I'm just going off the trade rumors thing. If it's been updated since then, that's fine. But I just took the
saying inflammation on them. Last I saw, it was saying elbow strain.
Okay,
that's what the tweet's from. All right, whatever. Anyway,
well, that's better. I will also like to notice, not to put this out in the universe, Pablo Lopez at the start was when going in for elbow soreness. So with elbows, you never know what the actual thing is until they actually screen the MRI. Sounds like he's going to be delayed a couple of weeks, but it's...
So the deal is he was originally sidelined for general arm soreness, which could be literally everything from he slept on his arm and it hurts to his elbow exploded, right? And it was kind of leaning towards he slept on his arm and it hurts a little bit because we're getting all this stuff. Like, we were just being overly cautious because he wasn't expected to make the major league roster. They want to use him as a starter later on in the season. So it's like we don't need him to pitch in spring training. It's fine. Just let him sit. And then it was, well, he's got an elbow strain and we're letting him sit and he's not going to be ready at the start of the season. So yeah, he said that he's not worried about it. Apparently 4 or 5 years ago when he was in college, he had like an elbow strain or like a pain in his elbow and he just sat it and it was fine. So he's like been through this before and he's not concerned. That somehow does the opposite of reassure me because now I'm like, what do you mean you think it's fine? I don't trust that opinion. So I'm really hoping that it's just we don't need him to pitch right now, so just let him sit and it's fine. Because they haven't said, oh, we're doing MRIs and we're doing these tests, but they just said it's an elbow strain.
Well, that in itself is a tell that they haven't done an MRI. If they thought something scary was happening, they would have said, and he went in for imaging.
Exactly. Like that's what happened with Jackson Jobe last May, right? It was he went in for imaging and then 2 weeks later we find out he gets TJ, right? It was, or like we found about the specific pull, the tendon, ligament, and then he gets, for this it's he's not getting imaging or whatever, or like he did get imaging and they didn't say, it didn't come up with anything, so they didn't talk about it, but it's just he has an elbow strain and he's just sitting around. So I'm really hoping that it's just going to be, hell, even if it's he's not going to pitch until June, but then he'll be fine. I am fine with that. We don't need him to pitch in the start of the season. He's not going to make the opening day starting lineup, a starting rotation in any way. He's there to be a 6th man or a 7th man and then be the 28th guy when the roster opens up in September. So, but that being said, if he does have to get TJ, I'm going to walk into the woods and you may not hear from me because I know. I don't like that. That would suck.
Yeah. Let me know if you find Nancy Guthrie when you're out in the woods.
I'll say there's $1 million claim if you're looking for it. So, all right. Well, we'll see. That may be non-news 2 weeks from now, but it's spring training. What else are we going to talk about? So, one thing we can talk about, though, the ABS system. We kind of talked about it a little bit last week, but we've kind of seen it. Sam has seen it in person, so I'm kind of curious how it works, if it's kind of like a little game or what it is. But Sam, what are your first thoughts before we go to the group?
Oh, is he frozen?
He is frozen. So, well, I'm going to take that back then. What does the group think so far?
I felt pretty good about it overall, and then I just looked at Baseball Savant's page, and the dashboard has a net overturns for the White Sox in -5. So now I'm not so sure how I feel about it.
Well, if it makes you feel, they're not worse than the division. The Royals are 4th worst in the league as far as percentage won. Where are the White Sox? The White Sox are 44%. That's fine. I don't know how else to measure this. I also like how the players also get their own little tab on here too. But I don't know. I really like it so far. Sam is back, so we can. Sam, now that you've seen it in person, what are your actual thoughts like as a fan in the stadium watching the game? Is it disruptive? Is it confusing? What is it?
Well, I thought it was pretty cool when I was there. First thing is it takes about 30 seconds for this to happen. Is the player just taps their helmet, whether it's the pitcher, the catcher, or the batter. The umpire turns around and they say, whatever team is challenging the ruling, they show it on the board, they show the pitch and where it landed, and it was either inside or outside of the strike zone, and then they, call whatever it was. And I think there's a lot of utility in this for entertainment because you can, A, laugh at a umpire for being so wrong. You can, B, laugh at a player for being so wrong. or C, you can admire a player for having such a good eye. In the game that I saw today, Vinny Pasquantino, he had one where he challenged the call of a strike, and I think the ball was like 0.2 inches outside of the strike zone, and I was like, good job, good eye, Vinny. So I think it really does work pretty quickly, and I think really the only question that most people have about this is how many times can you do it? And I mean that's something that people will learn, that you can do it 2 times. If you get it wrong both times, you're done. But if you get it right, you can do it as many times as you want. So I think it's a good system. I like it. It was very quick and easy in the stadium, and it was like being at a tennis match when they show the tennis ball going toward the line. So I really liked it, and I think it's a good system, and it'll really add a lot to the game this year, I think.
That was something I was really curious about how it is when you're actually at the game, in terms of like, if you like look away for 10 seconds and then you look back, did you miss that they're doing an ABS call or something? Like that kind of thing. Like, is it super obvious that they're doing it?
I think it is pretty obvious. I think it is possible that you could miss it if you're not paying attention. But if you do miss it, it's the difference between, a 1 and 2 count and a 2 and 1 count. It's not going to be the end of the world. Usually it's not going to be the most game-changing play of all time. And I do think that as the year goes on, I think teams, a lot of the times, at least in the 2 games that I've seen, the teams were out of challenges by like the 5th inning.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if we're getting into like the 9th inning, worrying about whether or not this is going to be a factor, I think most of the teams are being pretty liberal with their use of these challenges. So I'm not too worried about that as far as, the robots taking over the game. But it is a nice thing to have, and it was very interesting to see that live.
Yeah, I would say I think what's going to just seeing it live too, there's going to be a point in the NBA where people start shooting a 3 and you'll hear the crowd go, "Oh," that, and then there's going to be the cheer or the boo, and that's what I'm waiting for, is the people in the 7th inning half drunk giving that little cheer, because it's dumb and it's fun.
Yeah. I really hope that it is like a tennis match where people, you watch tennis and they do the replay and everyone starts clapping as the replay goes. I really hope I hope that baseball does the same thing.
Well, Sam, you're in a stadium. Just start doing that now and it'll catch
I
up.
did,
Good.
Eric.
Good.
I'm looking forward to seeing if stadiums will do when a player from an opposing team challenges and then gets it wrong, if the stadiums will start doing things to make fun of them.
Fun, like the air ball.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or the SpongeBob, "Oh brother, this guy stinks."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Whoever, if any sound PA system in the majors is listening to this stupid show for some reason, that needs to be downloaded right now.
Uh-huh.
Just play some sound effect when an opposing team gets a challenge wrong or something. It'd be incredibly funny.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm just a big fan of even just keeping it simple. Just he gets it so wrong, and then you hear a singular, "You're an idiot!" And then they just move on with the game. I don't know. I think
if the opposing player challenges and gets it wrong, you get the Price is Right, "You failed" sound.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking? Yeah.
There's so many things you can do. It's the stupid laugh that I want.
Or could they play the Jeopardy theme music when they're waiting for the ABS challenge for 15 seconds of it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's been really fun. I don't know. I think I know teams have actually told their veterans, especially veterans who are going to the WBC, just challenge, get used to it, get used to whatever you would like it to be, and then So I'm going to assume some teams, especially unless you're like Jose Ramirez. Jose Ramirez will challenge a pitch any goddamn time
whenever he wants. Yeah.
Chase DeLauder, unless it's like in the dirt and you 100% know you're not challenging before the 7th inning.
I think I think StatCast has proven this. Like, he is one of the most robbed players in the league as far as getting calls against him at the plate. So I think he's somebody that's going to benefit from this as well, actually.
It'll be really interesting to see how managers handle it and stuff. In terms of like players who, like, if they have designated players who are allowed to challenge and stuff like that, or if they tell their pitchers you're not allowed to challenge because you're going to be wrong.
I think that's already been determined. I think there's been a lot of, because like they've had this in the minors for a couple of years, and pitchers have statistically the worst conversion rate, and I don't think it's particularly. Catchers are one, hitters, and then pitchers are like the worst.
Well, I can tell you that today both Vinny and Caglione won a challenge during the game. So sounds like the Royals are just letting anyone call for those ABS challenges. So
that might be too, like, guys, just go get a feel for it. Like, we want to learn if what you think is a strike or is a ball is actually what's going to get corrected or not. Like, just go do it, have fun, figure some stuff out.
Also,
these games
they can do this without a game going on. Anytime you do live BP, you may as well just have the APS going on and you can test it yourself. Like, there's no reason you can only get like twice a game and during spring training. You can
I saw they were doing it I saw videos of teams using it during like live bullpen and stuff like that.
You could put a pitching machine up there and just have guys track balls, and that's a
I will say that the whole system has made me gain a higher appreciation for what umpires do and what they've been doing.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I think that's going to be an underrated point because I thought the same thing. You put the box on the TV, I think the umpires are the worst, and I even said that last year. But like, you remove the box and you kind of have the guessing game with them, and you're like, oh, they missed that call by like 0.2 of an inch.
Yeah,
that's pretty good. Like,
and plus, when you see egregious calls, you can see how like the catchers over on the left-hand side of the plate and the umpires on the right, like in terms of their positioning, you can see how it's affecting what their calls are. But once again, just how well they've been calling them. I'm glad that we have the system, but just kudos to the umpires of the league.
Now, to challenge on the opposite side of it, I agree with that. However, I am also looking forward to games where we see a Reddit post like there were 18 challenges of ABS.
Oh yeah.
Stuff like that.
Fine.
I am looking forward to those because those will be fun.
It'll be interesting what umpire scorecard will do too. Not that this that's obviously secondary, but
there's going to be a lot of good memes that come out of this.
Right. As long as they get the call correct, I don't think anyone's going to, because it's not like these challenges don't take that long. And also, if an umpire has 18 you only get 4 misses a game if you're a team. Like 2 challenges per team, and it's like they reload if you keep getting it. But if there's an umpire that has 18 challenges, I'm going to guess Joe Torre is like going to give that umpire a call at the end of the game, and it's going to be like, what the flying hell was that? Like,
well, at least with this, we know that Angel Hernandez is never coming out of retirement.
Nope, I'm pretty sure he was paid a pretty sum just to go into that retirement. So yes.
Yep.
And Phil Cuzzy also retired, so we just need CB Buckner, and then we're almost there, boys. Then we get a new generation of umpires that we can all hate on. But the trifecta are leaving, unless you're like, who's the umpire that got caught for gambling? That was actually really good. That was kind of a bummer last year. I can't remember his name, but he was starts with an H. But whatever. So I think that's pretty good with the ABS. I think it's fun. I'm pro. I love it so far. So we'll see.
One more quick anecdote before I hop off. I went to the game today, spring training, and we were doing the national anthem. And over the PA system, they said, in honor of America's 250th anniversary, we would like to invite the fans in the stands to join us in singing the national anthem. and there was no music. There was no one singing on the field. It was literally, they just put the words of the national anthem on the video board and they scrolled up and no one started singing. And then after about like 10, 15 seconds, you heard people kind of halfway kind of start singing. You could kind of vaguely hear the national anthem being sung, but not really. And it was one of the most pathetic things that I've ever, one of the most pathetic singings of the national anthem I've ever heard. And at the end of it, I couldn't stop laughing while this was going on.
Which I'm sure is what they were going for when they said that. I mean, if you want to do that, do it for like the 4th of July or opening day, not spring training game 4 against two teams that you probably won't face each other in the regular season.
Yeah. Or I'm guessing the person who was supposed to sing the national anthem might have canceled at the last minute.
This is a cost cutting measure.
Maybe. So,
yep.
But anyway, yeah, that's been my experience at spring training so far, and I'm going to hop off so that I can enjoy a gourmet dinner at In-N-Out Burger, and I hope everyone else has a great show.
Okay, well, you go enjoy your overrated hamburger, and we will have a good rest of you. I love that anyone listening in California just did an audible gasp at their car radio right now. I mean, Whataburger is a better burger.
I've never had either one. So
all fast food burgers kind of suck.
I mean, that's really the truth. Like,
you guys have never had Mr. Hero, which is fantastic and is only in Cleveland. So it's the taste you crave.
I will say, like, the number one burger in the country for fast food is Culver's, and I will die on that hill.
Every time I've had Culver's, it was kind of gross. It was like, no, I've never had a good Culver's burger.
Culver's,
one second.
White Castle.
Let's fix that. Okay, so we'll take that nonsense and never have that again. So, Lee, I'm going to allow you to come back on this stream, but if you ever take the good name of Culver's ever again, I swear to goodness.
I'm just saying, I've never had a good one. I'm not saying that they're bad. I've just never had one that was tasted good. Maybe I've just been to bad Culver's.
Note to self: if you put Culver's name down, you get kicked off. Oh, that's great.
Oh, I will get drunk with power. Don't you make me do it. I will be an absolute tyrant for the second year of this show. So, anyway, side tangent involved. Don't know why I decided to pick on In-N-Out Burger and then wanted to die on the Culver's Hill. But the majority of this episode, we're going to do some season previews. One of two very different teams and states of franchises right now. So we're going to do the Guardians and the Twins, if you haven't figured it out by the thumbnail. And we're going to go through the lineups. We're going to go through the depth, some of the prospects. So it is going to be a good in-depth talk. I'll also probably split this episode up, at least on the YouTube version of it, just so if Guardians fans just want to listen to the Guardians part, not the Twins part. I get it. But with that, I will hand it over to Dan.
Thank you. By the way, it's a beautiful thumbnail. Let's get into this. I've got a lot of players I want to get through, a lot of stuff I want to talk about, so I'm not going to delay any further. The Cleveland Guardians last year won 88 ball games. As famously known, they won the American League Central Division after being down 15.5 games in July. They did follow that up, though, with a first-round exit from the playoffs at the hands of the Detroit Tigers. Over the course of the offseason, there's some hope that perhaps they could build upon this roster that has made the playoffs 2 years in a row, is just 1 year removed from an ALCS appearance. And instead, the additions, particularly to an offense that was lethargic for most of the year, were pretty mild at best, if not non-existent. Essentially, I think most of the improvement, if it's going to happen, is going to have to come internally. The Guardians themselves and their front office have acknowledged that. And we're going to start with that offense with today's preview. So, as mentioned, they were 28th in WRC Plus last year over the course of the season. When they made their grand comeback in September, They were 12th in WRC plus, 101, which for those that are not familiar with WRC plus or OPS plus, which is the other stat I'm going to refer to here a lot, 100 is average. Higher numbers are better. For reference, Jose Ramirez was like 130 last year for OPS plus. That gives you a good idea of kind of where the top range is. And then like Daniel Schneemann was like a 75. So that gives you an idea what the bottom is. Anyway, 101, about average, 12th place in September. And over the course of that month, the team went 20-6. So that, as the offense went, the team went. And again, a lot of these improvements are going to have to be internal. What I'm going to provide now is what I am considering a common lineup. It's not going to, I think the Guardians are going to do a lot of mixing and matching. Stephen Vogt's going to use the entire 26-man roster, perhaps the entire 40-man roster. What I'm going to describe is a 9-man lineup that will be fairly often seen during the course of the year. And specifically what I'm aiming to do is the guy that's at each position, that is going to be the most likely player to play that position the most this year. So as an example, leading off, batting first, playing left field, Stephen Kwan. So Kwan, I expect to play left field most, and he's been the Guardians' leadoff hitter for most of the season. So we'll start with him. I'm also going to give a number of games that is a good goal for that player to play this year. Those numbers aren't going to total up and be right because they're all goals for each player in a vacuum. And I'm going to give one offensive statistical goal for that player. So with all of that out of the way, Stephen Kwan, batting first, playing left field. The news came out over the course of this spring training that Kwan would play some center field as well. I expect that to be the case, but I still think his bread's going to be buttered mostly in left field. I think it's going to depend on who else is in that outfield with him, where he's playing. The fact they've been willing to kind of be a little bit more versatile with him is a positive in general. Kwan is the same player that everybody on this podcast remembers him as. He's a memorable player because he's a pesky hitter. He's a Gold Glove caliber left fielder. But I will say he has technically been a below average hitter the last two of the last 3 years. He was under 100 OPS plus in 2 of the last 3 years. I've seen him break down over the course of a season, or at least it seems that's what's going on. He'll get off to hot starts in April and May, swoon June, July, August, but somehow comes back in September and starts to hit well and then hits well in the playoffs. He's been a fantastic playoff performer. I also think that perhaps there's just a game of cat and mouse going on with Kwan where pitchers will pitch him inside and he'll make the adjustment to start pulling the ball and start driving doubles. So pitchers will adjust and they'll start pelting him with outside fastballs. And he'll start rolling over and hitting grounders to second. And then he'll adjust and he'll start slapping those left field for singles. And that just kind of repeats over and over again. Anyway, the Guardians need Kwan to be productive in order to have success. It's completely possible. He had a 120 OPS in 2024. That is within him, but they need the offense. They're going to need offense from a lot of guys. He's one of them. And if they're competitive, I don't think he gets traded. Because that's the other thing is he's now 2 away. He's got 2 years of team control left. We're getting closer and closer to that. If they're playing winning baseball, he's on this roster. If this is a below 500 team at the trade deadline, I think it gets interesting in that regard. To cap off Kwan, I've got him down for 140 games as a goal and an OPS plus of 110.
Now, I have a question for you about Kwan.
Please.
So, you mentioned before, we talked a little bit about how he was taking reps in center field during spring training. Do you think that's going to be a thing that happens regularly, or is that going to be a defensive switch type of scenario for the season?
I think that it's going to depend upon who else is in the outfield on that particular day, which is going to have a lot to do with who's healthy at that point in time on the roster and who Stephen Vogt has at his disposal. One thing you're going to see as I go through these projections is that I've got some skepticism of certain players' health. And so I think if, say, the number 2 hitter in this lineup, which is going to be Angel Martinez, is playing, he's going to be playing a lot of center field, and Stephen Kwan's going to be playing a lot of left. But if, say, Chase DeLauder is in the lineup, DeLauder will be playing right, and Kwan would be playing center. So it's just going to kind of depend on who's out there. And I'm going to default to Kwan mostly playing left field.
Gotcha.
Moving into Angel Martinez, I kind of stole my own thunder there, but it's not Chase DeLauder hitting second. It's not George Valera. It's Angel Martinez playing center field. Martinez is a switch hitter who has a 775 OPS versus lefties and a 563 versus righties, which makes me wonder if he should just hit right-handed. Probably not, but if nothing else, he is a strong platoon option against lefties. I think he makes this team at the minimum as a bench bat against those lefties. He got a chance to play center field last year, basically kind of learned center field on the fly over last offseason. It was okay out there, but has the opportunity to play center, second, third, right. And I think just because of his versatility and his ability to hit left-handed pitching, he will make this team either as a bench player or as the center fielder because of attrition. Because of that potential attrition, I have him in this spot in the main lineup. His goal is 90 games, and his offensive goal is 100 PS less. Third, playing third base, Jose Ramirez, as if there was any doubt. Jose Ramirez is inevitable. One of the best players in the game at any given time. He's averaged 36 doubles, 31 home runs, and 38 steals over the course of the last 3 seasons, while also being a Gold Glove finalist. He's a clubhouse leader. He's committed to the organization, as he signed an extension over the course of the offseason that'll have him in a Guardians uniform until he's 40. And I have to figure he's staying in the 3-hole in this lineup because they've experimented with him hitting second for the last 2 seasons at the start of the year. And the first time it lasted about 3 days. The second time it lasted about 3 weeks. I don't expect it to last 3 months. This time I expect they're just going to leave him in the 3 spot where he's comfortable. So it's kind of counterintuitive not to kind of dedicate a bunch of time to Jose, but I think we know what he is, and he's awesome. So I don't anticipate that changing anytime soon, and I hope to not be made a fool on that. My goals are 155 games, and his goal for offense is get to that 40-40-40 season that he's gotten so close to a couple times. Batting fourth, playing first base, Kyle Manzardo. Kyle Manzardo came into last season. I remember doing this preview and talking about Manzardo as being a guy with really good contact skills. Hopefully he hits 20 home runs in this lineup. The opposite happened. Manzardo hit like 234 and hit 27 home runs. And so he, has shown more power potential than expected. And I think it kind of maybe came at the cost of some swing and miss. But with this offense, I think that's necessary. And I think he can still utilize those good contact skills when he needs to. Manzardo's the one guy we'll allude to the being in shape thing that happens at spring training. But the funny thing is, there was a report that came out in December, not February, December, from Stephen Vogt that Manzardo had added 14 pounds of muscle. So I don't know how he did that fast. But fantastic. Yeah.
I saw a tweet from, I think it was Brent Rooker, who was like, going into spring training, just remember, nobody adds 15 pounds of pure muscle. That's not what happens.
And maybe it's not muscle. I don't know. But the point I'm trying to make is Manzardo worked on his physical fitness over the course of the offseason. I think it's actually more to do with the field. He's not a very good first baseman. And I think getting in a little bit of better condition will help with that. I've heard about him wearing down over the course of last season. The numbers don't suggest his second half was worse than his first. He was solid the whole way. And this is a guy that I'm hoping emerged as a consistent source of offense for this offense last year. And they're going to need that moving forward. I also think that he kind of can get pigeonholed as not being able to hit lefties, and I'd like to kind of see that proven out a little bit more. So I think he's going to get some opportunities. I think some other additions to this roster maybe will trim some of those opportunities, but I don't think he needs to exclusively be a platoon bat.
How much more ceiling does he have? 110 OPS, 27 home runs. I
think there's a little bit more there, particularly if you added 14, 15 pounds of muscle. I think 27 home runs could become 35. Or you're going to make better contact, and the batting average is going to be 250, 260 instead of 234. So I do think there's one incremental step he could make as a player, but I don't think he's an MVP candidate or anything like that.
Does he
His
get anywhere
goals,
close to where Josh Naylor was before he left?
I think he's close right now. Naylor had some at Naylor's best. Naylor was a 300 hitter with 25 home runs.
Got it.
So he's got the 25 home runs part down. If anything, I think he's got a little bit better power potential than Naylor did at this point. Naylor hit some prodigious home runs, some big home runs, but he didn't hit them with a ton of frequency. I think it gets kind of to be a wash. I think they'll be close to similar production.
I'm going to do this a lot this episode, but like if Kyle Manzardo has the career of Josh Bell, is that a good outcome for him?
That's weird. Bell was an all-star at one point, but I think most of Bell's career has been more underwhelming than that. I think Manzardo could be more consistent than Bell has been. And I could just be kind of misinterpreting Bell's production.
I mean, and also I'm putting you on the spot. So his career WAR isn't that impressive, Josh Bell. It's 8.6.
Yeah.
I mean, just for 256 batting average, 443 slug, has a 114 OPS plus. He's a crappy defending first baseman. Probably his ceiling. Bell's obviously a switch hitter, but
114 OPS plus over a career as a not very good first baseman, that's about what I would expect. Manzardo maybe a touch. I'd expect a touch more, but about the same. I think that's fair.
If he continues to decline at first, or if he's just not performing defensively but still hitting, is there room for him to move to a DH spot more permanently? And is there someone who can take his place at first base?
So the first thing I want to say to that is the defensive opinions I'm expressing about Manzardo are my own, and I haven't necessarily heard the organization express the same. It's just my opinion. I think he's kind of a lousy first baseman.
Out above average with you, for what that's worth.
But with that being said, no, this roster is predicated upon moving pieces, and so he's going to have to play some first base. He's not going to be a DH for 150
That would
games.
be my question. Let's just pretend that the defense doesn't ever improve. They'd probably just ship him, wouldn't they?
Again, I think with this roster being so devoid of offensive talent, at least at this juncture, they're going to deal. It's going to be like Starling Marte, where it's a calculated decision they've made. He's a first baseman. We'll get by. It'll be okay. If he's hitting 30 bombs, fine. Stick him out there. Right. It won't be every day either. It'll be, you can always take him out at the end of a game with some of the other players we're going to talk about.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because like they did trade Josh Naylor. They did. So like there is that's my only, I don't even mean like Cleveland.
If we get further into his control and maybe some other players blossom on this roster, then maybe he becomes expendable 2-3 years down the line. But for now, no. Batting fifth is one of those other options. In this case, playing designated hitter, David Fry. Oh, Manzardo, I'm sorry. 140 games, 30 home runs are his goals. David Fry, batting fifth. Fry broke out in 2024, was an all-star, had an OPS over 800. It was super valuable because he played all over. Catcher, first, third, right. Maybe a little bit of left field too. Basically all the corner spots and catcher. 2025 was a lost season. He needed Tommy John surgery over the course of the offseason between 24 and 25 and showed up halfway through the year having recovered, but was only able to DH, was playing catch-up all year, never looked comfortable, looked like he was putting too much pressure on himself because he couldn't play the field. Then he takes a pitch to the face in September from Tarek Skubal. And me personally, I had concerns that like that kind of thing happens and maybe he gets spooked. Maybe he's, afraid in the box. That thankfully hasn't seemed to be the case here in spring. He's been okay. And he seems to have a clean bill of health. So he's been cleared. He can play all those positions I described a moment ago. Catcher's the biggest one. Having a third catcher on the roster who can play other positions, who can hit, really opens up some interesting possibilities, particularly when one of your other catchers is Austin Hedges, who isn't going to hit very well. Sorry to spoil that for down the line, but that's just the case. This lineup is longer if Fry's effective. I personally think he can hit both sides of a platoon. I think the organization agrees with me on that one. Some people think he's a lefty against lefty specialist. I don't agree. And his ability to be versatile and pinch hit is huge. I'd expect to see him a lot late in games if he doesn't start as well. Batting sixth. Oh, and Fry's goals. I'm not used to doing these. 100 games, 720 OPS versus right-handed pitching, which would be league average about, and prove he can hit righties. Batting sixth, CJ Kayfus. He's playing right field. Last week, Eric brought up CJ Kayfus, and I kind of punted on the idea of him playing a lot, just because of the Hoskins signing, some other things that have gone on. Again, I am skeptical of some other players on this roster's ability to stay healthy. I'm less skeptical of Kayfus. He is the least splashy of the Guardians' young outfielders with potential, but I trust him to stay healthy the most. Played 130 games last year between the minors and majors. Tore up the minors, by the way. Had a 930 OPS in 86 games. Came up and was decent in the majors. He had a 94 OPS plus, so just below average. And he's 24 years old. First base is his primary position, but he appears to be shoved out of that with Manzardo as well as Rhys Hoskins, who we'll talk about here in a minute. So he is added to the right field mix, and I think that's where he shows up here because I just think he's going to be more durable and more available than some of the other options. His goals are 90 games and an OPS plus of 105. Batting seventh, pitching, Bo Naylor. I thought Naylor was a can't-miss prospect 2 years ago. It seemed like the Guardians were doing everything in their power to be able to get him to succeed. And it hasn't quite worked out the way you had hoped. Interestingly, he was thought of as a bat-first catching prospect. Instead, his defense has been solid. He calls a good game. He frames well, does everything behind the plate well. It's not elite, but it's really good. And so that's been kind of the way he can hang his hat as a major leaguer. The bat hasn't come around. Last year had some really low lows. His OPS in August last year was 474. Awful. There's players whose slugging percentage alone, let alone plus on base, is better than that. But in September, he made adjustments to his stance. His OPS in September was 872. So was that real? We're going to find out. Spring, he's gotten off to a decent start, so that's good. I don't put a lot of stock in spring numbers, but it's better than him not doing well. Yep, there you go, Eric. The other thing that is in his favor is his BABIP last year was a putrid 222, which suggests bad luck. I think league average is like 290, and lower means you had bad luck. He just made a hit into a lot of outs last year, so the Guardians feel married to Naylor to me. It feels like he's their catcher moving forward. They like his catching. They like his leadership. They're able to mix in Hedges to spell him and give Fry at bats, but he's the primary guy. And they do have Cooper Ingle in the minors, who's kind of on the verge of being a top 100 prospect. I would trade Cooper Ingle, and that's the extent of what we're going to talk about him today. But yeah, I think their full systems go with Naylor.
I have two questions for you.
Right
One
ahead.
question and a comment. So, a question. If, let's say, this year he doesn't continue to improve and go on upwards, do you think that it's next year would be a last chance year or type of thing with him? Maybe that's getting a little too far ahead of ourselves, but I'm just wondering what you're...
No. If he continues to produce at the rate he's producing now offensively, I think he's the Guardians catcher moving forward. If he were to bottom out, then we're looking at other options. We're looking at Ingle, or we're looking at making a trade. But even if he's still spitting out 85 OPS plus, if he's catching a good game and doing all those other things that they seem to value, I think he's going to catch for them.
Well, I think the average OPS plus for a catcher last year was 85. So
there you go.
Yeah, he doesn't need to hit well. It's more on I've just seen a lot of stuff on it's Twitter, but I've seen a lot of stuff online about Guardians fans complaining about his defense and stuff like that. So I wasn't quite sure how well that's been going in terms of
the metrics for him are good. Now he was better 2 years ago. Oh yeah, He was better 2 years ago than he was last year, but he's still framed really well. The problem with Naylor's, when he makes a mistake, it's an obvious mistake. He's had some 5-hole balls get through that are like, wow, that was bad. And that's why I think the impression of him from fans can be negative. But holistically, he's been a solid defensive catcher.
Yeah. And Eric, can you go back to the baseball reference and scroll up? Because his name is Noah Gibson James Washington Naylor.
Bo is obviously a nickname. Bo was given to him by his brother Josh, who couldn't say Noah when they were little kids. And so
Okay. I was wondering where the Bo came from.
Yep.
Which name is that?
Yep, that's how that came about.
Okay. I was looking at
All right.
Okay.
Anything else before I get off the Naylor from anybody?
No, just one statement. How dare he? And that's all.
By the way, I didn't mean to mention this. If anybody listening to this, go check out Bo Naylor's split numbers against the AL Central versus everybody else. He kills the AL Central. I don't know why that is, but it's the case, and he's not very good against everybody else.
That's why I started clicking on these home runs, because I'm wondering, I think 80% of these are going to be against the AL Central now. I picked 3. 1 was the Twins. Chris Paddock, so technically that's a double.
Yep.
Their younger brother, Miles Naylor, is still in the A's organization. If he gets up to the Lansing Lugnuts, I'm going to go to a game because it's like an hour away from me. So that would be extremely funny. I'll take a picture for you guys.
Moving on. Batting 8th. Playing shortstop. Gabriel Arias. Arias, as I mentioned many times on this show, is an incredibly toolsy ball player. Rocket arm, super athlete, hits the ball incredibly hard, but it has never transferred on the field. He got off to a great start last season. He had relatively great comparative to kind of what the Guardians have had at short recently. He had a 750 OPS and a 26% K rate through May 12th. After that date, 590 OPS, 38% K rate. For reference, the highest of qualified hitters in K rate last year was 32%. So he was 6% higher than the qualified highest in the league. He has a 1 percentile whiff rate, which you can see on your screen right now.
Yeah.
He swing and miss a lot. 6 percentile chase.
This is one of those where you see the thing he has to improve on. He chases an incredible amount of times, and he doesn't make contact. So either be more selective or make more contact. One is easier than the other.
Or don't swing.
He was also standing way off the plate last year, and from what I understand, at spring training, he's a little bit closer to the plate this year. I don't know if that adjustment will do anything or not. The Guardians have, even with the potential reinforcements I keep alluding to on this roster, young guys, shortstop's a hole. I think Arias, with his tools, is probably their best option at this point in time. I got goals for him of 105 games and a K rate of 30%. So if he can just get below the qualified highest in the league, I think that would be a good improvement.
High expectations, man, huh?
He'll hit a few balls harder, and that'll be good. His teammate up the middle will be second baseman Brian Rocchio. Rocchio really struggled early last year. He had a 530 OPS going into May before he got demoted to AAA. Came back in July and was at least better, 689 OPS the rest of the way. He'll have random great moments. He hit well in the playoffs in 2024. He hit the walk-off home run that clinched the division this past year for the Guardians. So, he'll do random things of grandeur, but overall, it's just, he's okay. He doesn't have to.
Sorry. Do you think he's more like a backup shortstop, primary second, or is he really competing for a spot, or is it kind of?
On opening day, he's a starter, and I think he's in competition with Arias as the season goes along. Quite frankly, those guys are kind of yin and yang. Like I said, Arias's tools, great potential, has all these things, and then you've got Rocchio, who's kind of just more steady and doesn't jump off the page, but won't embarrass himself. So and it's which one would you rather have kind of thing going on? I'd rather have Arias, I am enamored with the potential, even if there's a ton of swing and miss. But either one is debatable.
Was Rocchio hurt most of the year last year, or what's what?
He spent a good 2 months in AAA.
I mean, I don't know. Like I'm not impressed. He was brought up based off of his defense, if I remember right, like 2 years ago.
Yeah,
And well, we can even see it was 2024. He was great.
he
Last
wasn't
year,
very good last year.
he was not good at all.
And in fact, last year they started with Rocchio at short and Arias at second. When Rocchio got demoted, Arias moved to short, which I think is the more natural pairing of those two. And when they came back, Rocchio went to second. And I think that was one, Arias was doing well defensively at short, but also Rocchio, I think, kind of played himself out of the opposite. So
This is without sounding too hot takey. If he has a 2026 similar to 2025, is he a DFA non-tender type guy next year? He's 25.
not so fast. That could be in his future. I wouldn't say it would be 12 months from now, but it could be in his future depending on how other things shake out on this roster. I will say that I think one of these gentlemen, these middle infielders, is keeping the seat warm for a guy we're going to talk about in a couple minutes.
Hmm.
That was my starting nine. I'm going to move right into the bench. And when I say bench, it's really guys that are going to play a lot, but they're not the 9 guys that I think are going to play most on this roster. And we'll start with some other outfielders. We're going to start with George Valera, is where we're going to start. I caught Eric off guard there, but that's okay. Oh, Rocchio's goals. I keep forgetting the goals because I didn't do it last year. 100 games, 25 doubles. Let's hit some extra base hits because he had 18 the last 2 years. George Valera, off the bench. Outfielder, corner outfielder to be specific. I think Valera can produce offensively at the MLB level, point blank period. I feel comfortable in that, even though he's only played a handful of games at the end of last year. I also think the Guardians are ready to play him in the bigs tomorrow. I just don't know if he can stay healthy. He is a 4-time top 60 prospect by Baseball Prospectus, dating back to 2018.
That's not a good list to be a 4-time on.
No, he's played more than 90 games one time since 2019. He has hit at every level he's played at. He just can't stay on the field. He's also not a great fielder. He's definitely a corner guy. He'll probably DH a lot. Him on the field. A lot of guys, so he's not able to do that exclusive. But I've got high hopes for him if he can stay on the field. In this case, I'm not that certain of it. That's why I've got other guys in positions in the starting 9, Martinez, Kwan, where they are. So instead, I'm going with a goal of 70 games and 110 OPS plus for Valera.
Is there if the concern? I'm going to talk about this with a certain prospect for the Twins too in a bit, but if injuries are the concern, he's 25 at this point. Fire as many bullets as you can get in the chamber and just put him in the opening day roster. To me,
and I think assuming his health, I think that'll happen. My concern is over 162. How often is he going to be in it? So the way I'm formatting this is a little misleading. The starting 9 I provided is not an opening day starting 9. It's how these guys are going to play the most, whether that's because of production or injury or whatever. So let me be clear on this. If Valera is healthy on March 26th, I expect him to be in the lineup. And the same is the case for the next gentleman on this list, Chase DeLauter, who is another outfielder who is a former first-round pick and has so much potential, but also has so many question marks. DeLauter has technically never played an MLB game with recorded stats. He played a playoff game. He played 2 of them, if I'm not mistaken. And
don't remind me of it, though.
You know what? He took a really tough situation in stride.
Yeah.
He was injured for 2 to 3 months before that playoff game, was taking some BP to stay fresh, gets a call and says, hey, we're going to put you on our playoff roster if you don't mind. And so talk about a whirlwind there. Goes out, plays center field. Plays center field, by the way, in a playoff game. That was an elimination game, if I'm not mistaken. And the first ball hit to him, he loses in the sun. Proceeds to come up, have really solid at bats. Gets his first major league hit. That's technically not his first major league hit. Makes a couple loud outs, works a walk. I mean, he didn't hit 3 home runs or anything, but like he looked the part. And so
track. Sorry. So when he got his first hit during the game, did they like save that ball for his first
I have to imagine.
And they're going to do it again?
I have to imagine they saved the ball. I even if it's technically not his first hit, you're saving that ball for sure.
Because I wonder if he's gonna have on his shelf 2 first major league hit balls. You know,
I would have to think he will.
So this is because like the Twins did the same thing to Alex Kirilloff in 2020. He has 2 first hit balls on his shelf.
Gotcha.
Like they did say that.
I was just curious about that because in terms of like souvenirs and stuff like that for a player, does it really count? But okay, that's fun.
Well, part of me think, Dan, do you think you're going to talk about this in a second? But like maybe I'm going to jump the gun here. Do you think he's going to make the opening day roster?
Just like Valera, if he is healthy, he should be on the opening day roster, and I think he will be. It's not should, he will be, in my opinion. I don't think they call him up in October to play a playoff game and then send him back down to AAA. Well, like I'd be shocked.
I think the union is particularly interested in that because that would be like, oh, so he's good enough to start the playoffs, but not the service time clock. Okay, grievance. Like that is such.
That's a good call out. Actually,
I think he's going to.
That's interesting. I hadn't considered that. That's a really good thought. But no, I think he'll be on the major league roster on opening day, assuming his health. Now he's already missed a couple days due to a sore back. He played today on Sunday, March 1st, and hit a home run on a pitch that was off the plate inside, planted in the right field seats. So anyway, I think DeLauder ultimately is still better suited for right field than center. That might not be the luxury the Guardians are willing to have. I do think Kwan probably plays center if DeLauder is out in right and Valera is out in left. Like I think that's when Stephen Kwan plays center field. But in general, I think DeLauder's better suited in right, though he could play center. I kind of skimmed over this, but he's the number 34 prospect based on Baseball America right now. Has every tool. Eric highlighted him a minute ago. And, it's just the clean bill of health that's eluded him. He's never played more than 43 games in a pro season. Now, his amount of time in the pros is much shorter than Valera's. He was drafted in, I believe, 2022. It's on your screen right there. It's not a foregone conclusion that DeLauder's talent transfers, but he probably has the highest ceiling of any player on this roster, and I think he gets the chance to show it. I'm just not convinced he plays as much as Kayfus or Martinez due to the health side of things. If he does play, I imagine he'll hit second or fifth, and in this order, it won't feel out of place. And that's kind of a knock on the lineup, but also like he could hit second or fifth for a lot of teams. I feel like. Let's continue with guys that I think are going to play a lot. First baseman Rhys Hoskins is next. Hoskins was signed a couple weeks ago. We talked about him. I think it's still a if he makes this team situation, which is why I didn't put him kind of in the earlier echelon here. But if he makes the team, he's going to play a lot. I'm just not certain if he'll make the team. If he does, he's still potentially good for 30 homers and 30 doubles. In 21 and 22, he hit those marks. Now, those were 4 years ago. He missed all of 2023 with a torn ACL. He got injured again last year, and then kind of lost his job to Andrew Vaughn. Sandwiched in between was a year in 24 where he hit 26 home runs. So I don't know that it was on him that he lost his job last year. Like, I don't understand entirely why nobody signed him. Maybe I'm missing something, and maybe he really has fallen off. But I think this points to him making this team and playing a lot, both at first base and DH. That, again, pushes Kayfus to the outfield, which is fine. But I don't see this being a traditional platoon. I don't think it's Manzardo against righties, Hoskins against lefties. I think both those guys, especially Hoskins, who has the numbers to back it, could play every day. Now, I say every day, but what I really mean is versus lefties and righties. I think he's also going to be a guy that gets mixed around in and out of the lineup. But
I don't mean to cut you off, but I don't think anyone expected him to lose his job to Andrew Vaughn. Just calling
well,
that
there you
out.
go.
including Andrew Vaughn.
Yeah.
The other key component with Hoskins is a lot of these guys I've talked about, Kafis, Valera, DeLauder, um, left-handed hitters. Hoskins is a righty, so that provides a lot of value because other than him and maybe David Fry, there's not a lot of right-handed pop on this roster. So all the more reason for him. 90 games is his goal, 25 home runs. I recognize I skipped over DeLauder's, which was 75 and an OPS plus of 110. Moving on to one other player that I think could be on here quite a bit. Nolan Jones is where we're going to go next. Um, a little bit of a different tone with Nolan Jones, though. There's been a lot of optimism here. There's been a lot of positivity, and I think it's warranted. Nolan Jones got a lot of run in the majors last year, and more so than any of these prospects I've been talking about. And he's lost his luster in a way that those other guys haven't. He was great for Colorado in 2023, was traded for around this time last year. In fact, I think it was closer to opening day than this last year from Colorado, and was supposed to be a play for power potential. He hit 5 home runs and had 14 doubles in 136 games last year. That is not power potential. That's nothing. That's not good. Um, I'm ready to see these other guys that I've been talking about. Valera, DeLauder, Kafis, even Martinez. I'd be happy to see him more than Jones. But if those guys get hurt or aren't effective, the Guardians have a $2 million insurance policy in, well, we can just put Nolan Jones out in right field and he'll at least catch a ball and throw the ball really hard and somebody will be able to hit in our lineup. Like that's to me his role, unfortunately. The one thing I'll say against that is he did go to Driveline this offseason. So maybe something comes of that. A lot of guys go to Driveline all the time. So who knows? He's 28. Time's running out for him to figure it out. His goals, 80 games, 25 extra base hits, because that would be an improvement from last year.
So just the bigger picture question. Cleveland, not I don't even necessarily mean Cleveland for this. Next year, Nolan Jones signs a major or minor league deal with a team.
I think it's minor. If Rhys Hoskins is getting a minor league deal, Nolan Jones is getting a minor league deal. The article came out this week that Jones was surprised that he wasn't non-tendered. He didn't. It wasn't written that way, but like he was surprised that he got a call back from the Guardians to come back this year. So, yeah.
If it's any reassurance, Zach McKinstry got a similar article, and then he was an all-star this year. So
We don't want to bury the guy entirely. But it's not looking good. That's all I'm trying to say. And I do think there's some better options here.
no, I agree. I was kind of surprised that they kept him on the roster and gave him how much is it? $2 million? How much?
$2 million.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised.
Just
I mean,
to
it could be stuff, but
just to reiterate your point about being touted as a power bat coming from Colorado, and it's like when he gets here, it's like you're not this, and you came from there. Yikes. Okay.
Yep.
I totally see the whole like, all right, we're done
like,
with you after you have until let's say the trade deadline to impress us.
I could understand the Colorado move after 2023 because he had a legitimately great year. This is like they traded him for basically his clone. I forget the name of who they sent to Colorado.
Tyler Freeman.
Tyler Freeman, like who basically did the same thing as Nolan. They just swapped crappy outfielders.
Yeah, neither of them were good last year.
Yeah.
I'd love to see the home away splits. So
yeah, Tyler Freeman had a negative 1.3 WAR with a 92 OPS plus in Colorado.
Yep.
So.
A couple more guys to get through here. I guess we'll go to the other guy that I've got high hopes for. Second baseman, Travis Bazzana.
Oh.
I had high hopes for Schneemann last year. Not anymore. Bazzana.
You're off of Schneemann?
Yeah. We'll get to that in a second. Bazzana, the first overall pick in the draft in 2024. MLB's current 20th overall prospect. contact, power, speed are all above average. You could see that in the 2080 numbers there on the screen. Probably well cast as a second baseman. This guy isn't a shortstop. I don't think he moves to the outfield, even though there's a need there. I think he's a second baseman. He's got a great eye at the plate. He's an analytically minded player, one of the things that really drew the Guardians to him in the first place. The biggest issue with Bazzana is the same issue I've said ad nauseum over the course of this preview so far. He got hurt twice in 2025. And so he could have made this opening day roster had he had a clean 2024, I feel like. I think they just want to see a little more first, and I don't blame them. I don't think it's a roster manipulation thing. He needs some at bats. He needs to just see some AAA talent for a little bit. And so I think, as I was saying earlier, Rocchio and Arias, one of those guys is keeping a seat warm. One of those guys is going to play shortstop probably for the entirety of this year. But it would not shock me if by the All-Star break, coming out of the All-Star break, Travis Bazzana is playing second base for the Cleveland Guardians. In that, I expect modest production. I think it would be way too much to consider him like a franchise savior. I don't want to put that on him, and I don't think it's necessary to put that on him, quite frankly.
No.
But I do think there's a potential for.
Can you be a savior when you're the defending Central division winners?
When you're 28th, when you're 28th in WRC plus, yeah.
It's supposed to be coming to a bad team.
I was about to say that the savior tag can be left for a crappy team.
Savior for an offense. I don't think he's a savior for an offense. But with that seasoning, I hope he can produce. And my goals for him are 50 games and to get his first MLB hit. And that's it for him.
I will say, very interesting to see hear the fact that he was injured twice, and then to see how many games he played at each level last year. They're obviously very high on him. That he got his those games in AAA even after being hurt.
Yep.
Well, it looks like I'm going to guess because he went to rookie ball. That's a rehab assignment. I can almost guarantee that 7 games, and that he was meant to be in AA, got injured, and then finished the year at AAA. Is how I'm reading that. But Dan, you know that better than I would.
I believe that's the case. Yeah. But they
I do this doesn't matter, but I do like they listed his weight as 199, and I'd like to know if Bazzana was like, could you just not put a 2 in front of my weight? Like,
I'm a second baseman. I can't be 200 pounds.
I can't be 200 pounds.
A couple more guys I want to hit on. We'll do Schneemann now. Daniel Schneemann, utility man. I had high hopes for Schneemann coming into 2025. He had a 91 OPS plus in 2024. And I was hoping he could build upon that and show a little bit more and be a productive everyday player with about an league average offense. His OPS last year through May 27th was 805. It was 562 the rest of the way. So he did not meet those expectations I was hoping for. And I think he has firmly landed himself in the place where his value comes from the fact he can play 6 positions on the field and play them well. Center, right, left, basically everywhere but first, I think, is what he's played. And he could probably play first if he needed him to. You just don't need him to. He'll be on the bench, and I think he'll be on the bench a lot, or banting between AAA and the bench. And he'll, be about what he's been. His goals are 90 games and a 92 OPS plus.
Oh, I like him better than because I like him as a utility player because he can play everywhere and he's great everywhere. That is a major league player, regardless of what's his OPS plus. Not pretty, I'm assuming. 76. I can live with a 76 OPS plus if you can play defense in 6 spots very well, and he does that. So I do like him a lot. He also looks a lot like my childhood favorite player in Chuck Knobloch a lot. For anyone looking at a picture on the screen. Not that I hope Daniel Schneemann is a much better person than Chuck Knobloch ever was, but we'll see.
Last offensive player, Juan Brito. He's an infielder. Brito was on the cusp of being a top 100 prospect at a number of different times. Last year could have been his year to play in the majors, but hey, guess what? He got hurt. Probably could have came up in May when Rocchio went down. Would have been probably the plan there, but he was injured at that point in time. Only played 31 games last season. He doesn't have an injury history like a lot of these other guys do, though. It was a one season kind of wonder type thing. He reminds me of Jorge Polanco from how I've heard him described. He's a second baseman that doesn't have great range, but he's hit at every level. He has a good batting eye, decent power, and he's a switch hitter. He might not stick at second. He's kind of a guy without a position, but that's kind of where he's played. He could play first. He might play right field. Analysts seem skeptical of all of his good offensive talent translating to the majors in ways that some of these other guys they're more optimistic about. And that could just be because he's not as much of an athlete. I don't know. But he could get a shot before Bazana if something really goes wrong with Arroyo or Arias or they get hurt. But I kind of feel like Brito's going to get skipped over. I wanted to mention him here because I feel like he earned that. But my goals for him are 35 games and a 10% walk rate because he's got a really good batting eye. I know I'm running long, so that's the offense. I'm going to get right into the pitching. Hopefully this will be a little bit quicker. I apologize for my length. Starting rotation really was a key to this team. On July 8th, this team was 15 and a half games out of first place. They were 24th in starting FIP. After that, they were 7th. So a big part of the turnaround was the fact that the starting pitching got its stuff together. And it came from contributions from 6 players that are all on your screen right now. Gavin Williams, 33 starts is his goal with a 9% walk rate. The walks are really the thing here. He's potential ace material. We've talked about that on the show before. 2.47 ERA from June 19th on last year. Cut his walk per 9 by 1 walk for and after that date of June 19th, which is good because he led the AL in walks last year. The last piece is command for him. If he can get that, the stuff is there, and he could be one of the best pitchers in this division. After him is Tanner Bibee. He has a 3.61 ERA in his 3-year major league career, averages 166 innings per season, and is just a very consistent pitcher. I will add to that as a caveat that last year was tough for him. He had some bad luck. He got in his head a little bit, I think. Give up a bloop or a bleeder here and there. Start getting upset about calls the umpire had. And then he'd give up a 3-run home run and things would kind of, that would be, he'd have a 5-inning outing with 1 blow-up inning and it wouldn't look very good overall. I think this new year is a good fresh start for him. He's probably not an ace. I think he's probably worked himself out of that label. But he's a guy that's extended on this roster, is going to be on this team for several years, and is a dependable starting pitcher long term. Slade Cecconi is next. Cecconi made 23 starts for the Guardians last season after missing the beginning of the year because of injury. Was great at times, but lacked consistency. The best way I can kind of allude to that is there were 6 different times last year where Cecconi pitched in 7 innings or more, which is really good. He pitched deep into all those ball games. But in 4 of those 6 instances, he had 3 strikeouts or less, which is really weird. And I find concerning personally. I think there's some smoke and mirrors there. I don't think he's that dominant. I think he's decent, but I don't think he's a dominant starting pitcher by any means. He's going to be 27. I think he's a league average pitcher. I think that's what he is. And so I wouldn't get too enamored with those 6 games. I think he's fine. And I think he's got a good spot in this rotation, but I think he's just fine. Alternatively, Joey Cantillo. I really like Cantillo. He started out of the bullpen last year, started the year out of the bullpen, pitched admirably before being asked mid-season to stretch out and become a starter again. He had a 2.96 ERA in 13 starts, and averaged 5 innings a start, despite the fact some of those early starts were cut short because he was still ramping up. He's got great off-speed pitches. He trusts both his curve and change. Both generated ex-WOBAs in the low 200s last year. League average is 315 for reference. So, 100 points below league average, which is really good. Unlike Cecconi, he has a great K rate. Only Cade Smith had a better K rate on the Cleveland staff last year. This guy feels like a potential 2-starter in the future. Not in 2026, but soon. And I think this is a really good opportunity for him this year to make 30 starts throw 130 innings, all at the MLB level, and really establish himself as getting to that caliber. Next is Logan Allen. Allen had a decent bounce back season last year where he shaved 1.5 runs off his ERA, which he had a really bad 2024. The difference was his ability to keep the ball in the ballpark. His home run per fly ball rate in 24 was 19%. League average is 12%. So let me think about that for a minute. 1 out of 5 fly balls that he gave up in 2024 was a home run.
Not great.
He cut that in half last year. And so I think that's bad luck mixed with a little bit of hard contact. And he avoided that hard contact in 2025. And that's 2 out of 3 years he's done so. Much like Ciccone, I expect him to be solid. He's a good 4 or 5. And teams need that. And I think he'll be valuable in his role. Lastly, one other starter I want to add as a 6th guy is Parker Messick. He's probably going to start the year in AAA if no health issues pop up for anyone. Health issues are going to come up at some point, though, and he'll be on the Major League roster. That's why I'm talking about him here. He made 7 starts last year as a rookie. He had a 2.72 ERA, limited home runs outside of 1 start against Detroit, which I've alluded to on the show a couple times. Has the best changeup in the organization, and that's just not me saying it. That's scouting, MLB.com, etc. When he was up in the majors last year, he pounded the strike zone, which makes that lack of home runs even more impressive. And to that point, he had a 3.6% walk rate last year. For reference, Tarik Skubal's walk rate last year was 4.4%. So the samples are wildly different. But just to give you a frame of reference for how successful Messick was in that short term, he was not walking guys at a better rate than probably one of the best pitchers in the sport. And his stuff doesn't necessarily make him upper echelon. He doesn't throw gas, but he's got a great changeup. And I'd really like to see more. I think he's a great fallback plan if one of the first 5 guys gets hurt. With that, let's go to the bullpen. And I'm going to kind of do this in as best as I can here. This bullpen has been the best bullpen in baseball 2 years in a row. They led league in FIP last year. They actually improved after Emmanuel Clase left, at least statistically. And again, statistically, they've been the best bullpen in the league 2 years running. That's headed by Cade Smith, who was abruptly put into the closer's role last year. And there were some bumps. He blew 6 saves and 22 opportunities. It's not for a lack of stuff. He still has one of the best fastballs in the league by metrics. And the one thing I'd be concerned about, he's thrown a lot of pitches. Only Brian Abreu has thrown more relief innings than Cade Smith over the last 2 years. So they've used him a lot. If I'm a team that's interested in signing Cade Smith 4 years from now when he's a free agent, I'd rethink that because I think he's going to get worn out, honestly. But I think that's more of a long-term issue than a short-term. And so I hope he gets comfortable in the closer's role this year. I hope he can match his 2.50 ERA in that closer's role and keep the blown saves down to 5 over the course of the year. Hunter Gaddis is another guy at the back end.
Blown saves under 5. How about number of prop bets? How many of those would you like that
0.
to be? Okay.
0. Negative if possible, please. Hunter Gaddis, been the 8th inning guy the last couple of years, has really been great in that role. Another guy, though, that's been top 10 in relief innings in the last 2 seasons. They've used him a lot. Did see his ERA jump from 157 to 311 last year, but 311 is still good. Maybe not as good as 2024 here in 2026, but he feels established at this point. He feels like a dependable back end of the bullpen guy. I expect him to be that. And I expect him to be paired with Sean Armstrong, which, for all intents and purposes, is the biggest free agent signing the Guardians made this offseason. And they gave him $5.5 million for 1 year. Has a 2.94 ERA over the last 3 seasons. He's a 35-year-old veteran. He adds another source of confidence in the bullpen. Another guy that they can lean on at the back end of games. Pitch the 7th, 8th, or 9th. If Cade doesn't work out in the 9th, they could go to Armstrong, and I'd feel comfortable with that. Cade could go back to his fireman role. He's been so great in the last 2 years. There's some variability there. I don't know that that's the initial plan, but they could go to that plan if plan A doesn't work. One interesting thing about Armstrong is he's a continual tinkerer with his own pitches and his stuff. He's added effective pitches over the course of his career. For example, in 2024, he added a sweeper to his arsenal. His sweeper had a SWOBA of 171 last year, 2 years removed from not having one at all. And again, league average is 315. So fantastic. And I think he'll fit really well in this bullpen and the type of innovative work that they like to do with the Guardians in terms of pitching. Let's move to some lefties. Eric Sabrowski. Sabrowski is a former minor league Rule 5 pick. Was the Guardians' most dependable lefty last season after coming back midseason due to injury. He ended up having a sub-2 ERA in 29 1/3. Struck out 35% of the batters he faced. There's some concern with his command. He did walk a lot of guys last year, but I think at minimum he's a lefty specialist. He could pitch the 7th inning if needed, and did that at times last year and was effective. He's paired with Tim Herron, who coming into last year was part of what I would consider the Guardians' big four in the bullpen with Smith, Clase, and Gaddis. He was like the fourth guy that really headed that monster of a bullpen 2 years ago. He kind of fell out of favor last year. He got hurt at one point, but also just walked a lot of guys and wasn't effective. 192 ERA in 65 innings in 24, 485 in 25, in a similar amount of innings. Command is key. His walk rate doubled last season. He wasn't getting ahead in counts. His first pitch strike rate went from 62% to 55%. He has stuff. He has potential. He just needs to harness it. I feel good about him and Sabrowski. One of those guys is going to be effective, at least, if not both. And so I think they're going to have somebody to draw from there, from the left-handed pitching side of things. One other interesting note about Herron, all those struggles, he pitched against Detroit 7 times in the last few weeks of the season. You'll remember we played 6 games at the end of the season, regular season, and the 3 playoff games. He pitched 7 times against Detroit. Didn't allow a run. So I don't know what that's about, but he was fantastic down the stretch against Detroit.
I mean, any pitcher who puts on a Cleveland uniform tends to do really well against the Tigers for whatever reason.
That's fair.
I mean,
everybody else here.
Cleveland is so good at pitching against the Tigers that Detroit's best pitcher will throw a ball between his legs and give away the division.
There you go. That's how shook they are.
That's not their playbook for this year.
Which was an actual quote by the manager, by the way. That's the only reason I bring that up.
I'm going to do the remaining people in groups just because I'm over on time. Connor Brogdon and Colin Holderman. I'm going to pair together. They were other free agent signings the Guardians made this year. I think I've laid out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys so far. I think Brogdon and Holderman are the next most likely to make this bullpen, except for Matt Fester, who I'll talk about in a second. The point is, these guys, they're veterans that they brought in at a low price, 1-year deals. One was a $900,000 contract, one was $1.5 million. Brogdon doesn't have options, Holderman does. They both are of a similar ilk. They have about 4.15 to 4.30 ERAs over their career. Brogdon was really good for Philly for a couple of years. His best year was in 2021. He's got a great changeup, generates a lot of weak contact. I think they have the opportunity to not rehab him because I don't think he's been that bad, but he should have a good home here in Cleveland and with kind of the pitching program that they have. And then Holderman was awful for Pittsburgh last year and was non-tendered. He had an ERA over 7. He had right thumb tendinosis, which is some sort of inflammation, to grip the ball. And so it was hard for him to pitch, period. And before that, the year before, he had a 3.16 ERA. So I expect him to be a great bounce back candidate. I think He'll do
Do you
really
think
well
he's
in this
going to get
bullpen
any
as well.
holds?
I think more than he had last year. I do want to mention Matt Festa, who was a guy the Guardians purchased last year from Texas in April. Made 63 appearances, rubber arm, pitched back-to-back days 15 times. Ended up being a really big innings eater for this bullpen last year. It got thrust into a role that was probably a little bit too big for him after Clase got suspended, where he ended up going into Smith's fireman role and just kind of wasn't suited for it. Good middle relief guy, sixth inning maybe. Inexplicably, even though he got used so much throughout the course of the season, got backburnered in the playoffs, and we only saw him once. I do think he earned the opportunity to prove himself in the playoffs, but I think he'll be in more of a role to excel this year than he was in the second half last year. Everybody else is Peyton Paulette, Pedro Avila, Kobe Allard, Franco Aliman, Trevor Stephan, Cody Hoyer, and Daniel Espino. Sorry, guys, you're going to kind of get the short end here. You're all vying for a spot in this bullpen. You're vying for the spots that I think Brogdon and Holderman are going to hold for the majority of the year. Paulette is a Rule 5 pick. I think he makes the team. I just don't think he makes it through the year. I think eventually something happens and they punt on him and they bring up Holderman or something to that effect. And he'll be back to the White Sox at some point. That's just my presumption. He already has right shoulder fatigue, so we haven't seen him in spring training yet. That's not working for him. But yeah, I think he could make the team, but I don't know that he'll make it through the whole year. Avila and Allard are really similar. They were guys that the Guardians reclaimed over the last couple of years. Avila was great out of the pen in a Matt Festa sort of way in 2024. Went to Japan last year and tried to prove he could start. Came back and ended up signing a minor league deal for the Guardians. It's good depth. Allard's around in case one of Heron or Sobrowski falters because he's left-handed. Also could start if needed as a spot starter. Trevor Stephan was fantastic out of this bullpen in 2022. Was like the second most used guy. Had Tommy John surgery in 24. Missed all of 24. Tried to come back last year. Was bad. ERA over 9 in the minors. And so he's just trying to kind of hang on and I think play at AAA until he's needed. Franco Aliman is a prospect at one point that I think maybe the ship has sailed on. 6.22 ERA in AAA over 59 innings over the last 2 seasons after having a prospect pedigree before that. And then Hoyer, I just thought was interesting because the White Sox had him and he has some potential to come back. And then the last name on here is Daniel Espino, who's probably the most interesting because he was a first-round pick in, I think, 2019. 24th overall, 3-time top 100 prospect. Never pitched in 2023 or 2024. You know why? Because he was hurt, just like a bunch of the other Guardians prospects. And only 18 innings at AA in 2022. He's had 2 shoulder surgeries. And know what? He pitched in the Arizona Fall League this last fall, and he threw 100 miles an hour still. And so I think they're going to keep him in bubble wrap. He could be a secret weapon for this team in August and September if he can get there. But he also could be absolutely nothing. So interesting player. And an interesting addition down the stretch, perhaps. But I think he's going to get more run in AAA to see what he's about at this point because it's far from conclusive. Thanks, guys, for letting me monologue. I hope the listeners have enjoyed kind of learning about each of these players. I'm looking forward to the season. I will say, just as a wrap-up, I think this bullpen still has all the established arms it's had over the last couple of years that have made it so prominent. And there are some lefty issues with the lefties having command, but I think that unit's going to be elite in general. The rotation doesn't have an elite level of talent the way that Kansas City or Detroit perhaps do. Maybe outside of Williams, but everybody has a high floor. High floor. Everybody has a high floor. And so I think they're really onto something, especially if Cantillo can blossom. And then that common lineup I listed out, which was Juan, Martinez, Ramirez, Manzardo, Fry, Kefis, Naylor, Arias, Rocchio. That's a lineup of a team that's going to be a 500 team at best. That specific lineup. If that lineup evolves to, over the course of a season, Juan, Valera, Ramirez, Manzardo, Hoskins, DeLauder, Naylor, Bazana, Arias, that's a team that could win 90 games. My prediction is somewhere in the middle. This is an 86 win team because I can't in good conscience assume those guys are going to stay healthy and all be effective. 86 win team. They'll keep Detroit honest all year. They'll finish second in the division. They're going to be the last team into the playoffs. And after that, all bets are off.
So
Well, I can't even
They're not
surprise
gonna come
ask
back
you
in
with a
September.
division question. Go ahead.
So I have a question I'm going to ask for everyone for the team previews and stuff. If there is one reason why this team will make the playoffs, what is that reason? And if there's one reason the team will not make the playoffs, what will be that reason?
An exceptional amount of young talent that could be amazing if they can stay on the field is the reason why they could. I was thinking of that answer while you were asking your second question. The second question was why they wouldn't. Is that correct?
Yeah.
All those guys break down. All those guys break down. And this is a 28th in WRC plus offense again. And the miles on Kate Smith and Hunter Gaddis and so on start to accumulate. And Detroit is better than they were last year.
Ty?
Do you really believe that? So you talked about your best case or your realistic lineup and your best case lineup. Do you think it leans more towards the 500, more towards the 89 wins, or is it really just depends?
It's an evolution. And it's an evolution in a couple different ways because I think a lot of those guys I put in the best case scenario lineup could be on there on opening day. It's just a matter of if they're going to be around all year. Bazana's the one guy that would be. I think he'll be up later. But I think they got to stay on the field. And so I don't think it's a matter of, I was trying to be very realistic with those expectations. And I think it's more of that. Health is going to be a big deal here.
I'll say health is a big deal. And like, I also want to point out something that we don't want to talk about, and I'm not trying to put this out in the universe, but if this team is going to be bad, one scenario is if Jose Ramirez goes down for any significant amount of time, this offense is aimless.
Yeah. How screwed are you on a scale of 1 to 10 if Jose Ramirez goes down in April?
So I think it's not good no matter what. The extent to how not good it is depends upon these other guys.
Right.
They could maybe cobble some things together if a bunch of, those players amount to something. But it's not a scenario I really want to think about much. And I don't appreciate Eric for putting it in the universe, quite frankly.
I'm sorry. And that's what I keep going back to for Cleveland is this is one of those things like, why are they going to be good this year? Oh, what's the front of the jersey say? Okay, that's why. Like, they've earned that reputation to always beat out projections, to always like overperform, not even projections, but just like basic, like the general consensus is they will overperform with speed and defense. But they still are walking a razor wire.
Yeah.
And it only takes one slip for that to go horribly wrong. And then it's just a lost season. And that's where, like, if Jose Ramirez does go down, and again, he's been remarkably durable. But if he goes down, that really does kind of lose the season to me. But I also don't know how you feel about that, Dan.
No, I think it would be very difficult for this to be a successful team without him in the lineup for an extended period of time. I think that's completely valid. And I'll say that if, say, Juan and Manzardo get hurt, you're in the same boat. It's not just Ramirez, but you have a finite number of players who can produce offense. And you're hoping that number is more than it was last year because of all this young talent, but there's still a finite number of them. So if you happen to lose them, man, did it just become a lot harder.
So Dan, my final question, and everyone, I'm sorry, I'll have to jump off after this. Dan, compared to last year, where we sat at the beginning of the season, you mentioned several prospects that will realistically get some playing time this year. Do those prospects make you feel any better about how the season would go if someone did go down? Do you think that do you have the reinforcements are coming vibe, or is it more just a question?
Players I've alluded to over the course of this preview, I feel fairly confident that the production will be there. You can't ever guarantee that, but I think if they're on the field, be able to perform for the most part. Maybe not every single one of them, but enough of them will. So yeah, I think that has added some depth. There's a couple, excuse me, there's a couple more guys that aren't quite ready to graduate yet, but this is the class right here. So it's mostly going to have to be these guys.
Not to bring him up, but like to me, Espino, just put him in the opening day bullpen. Who cares? Like you only have so many bullets with him. Why are we waiting? He's been a top prospect for how many years? And like he's dropped significantly. Former top 100 guy to barely on Cleveland's top 30.
I don't know that you can. I mean, you can, but a guy that's thrown 5 innings in 3 years, I don't know that you can do that.
All of which is fair. But yeah, that's going to be like a trend for me, because I'm about to do my preview here for the Twins. You only have so many bullets with these guys, and like for Espino, if he doesn't do anything this year, I mean, he will still bounce around, but like this really seems to be like the last.
This is it.
This is the year to prove something. Be something or be nothing. At least in Cleveland.
1,000%.
So, I don't know. It's always Cleveland. They will always win somewhere between 86 and 89 games. And like even if Jose Ramirez goes down, they will still pull a rabbit out of the hat because it's a pitching and defense heavy team. You can stay in a lot of games, a lot of 2-1 games if you have the pitching, obviously. So I don't know. Like they are a frustrating team to be in the division because for a team who is under $100 million in payroll, they're always in the playoffs and they're always competitive. So we'll see what happens. So I think, Dan, unless you have any closing thoughts, I think I can move on to the Twins.
Go right ahead.
Well, my first statement is right here. This might be a long list. So for those not on camera, I have the biggest bottle of Jack Daniels you can get at my local liquor store, and I am preparing that well. This will last probably through spring training. Because this franchise is in, and I'm being generous, they are in a transition year, if I'm being generous at best. So I don't need to go nearly as in depth because I feel like the Twins are they're waiting for that new wave of prospects to show up because I think 10 of their top 30 prospects are in AAA. And a few more of them are in AA. If they perform well, they will be in the majors here pretty soon. So for a team who blew up their team in the offseason or at the trade deadline and then did pretty much nothing except fire their GM 2 weeks before spring training, or sorry, not fire, they mutually parted ways. This is a very interesting team, to say the least. Whoever writes a Twins book 10 years from now, this will be certainly a big part of their book. So let's just talk about it. I'm going to start off with the rotation because to me, that's probably the most interesting part of this team. But it really doesn't, it's interesting to me and probably no one else. So these are the 4 that I think are pretty locked in. The Joe Ryan, Bailey Ober, Simeon Woodruff, and Todd Bradley are probably your top 4 pitchers going into the year. Now, this hurts because Pablo Lopez just got injured, and then we're going to talk about David Festa, also is going to be delayed for the start of the season with a shoulder impingement. I would say I feel pretty good about Joe Ryan. My one note on him, you got to do it all year, bud. He has been fantastic, and then there's like a 2-month stretch every year where he is average or terrible. If he is going to be that number one pitcher that he's trying to be, he needs to kind of use this year. He's 2 years away from free agency. He needs to start thinking of his free agent money, and he needs to start going for it this year, because the chances for him being on this team past even 3 months from now, I think, are somewhat limited, but especially going into 2028, he needs to start thinking of the big picture. Bailey Ober, I think, is kind of in the same boat, but not nearly. He's not going to make nearly the money Joe Ryan does. Bailey Ober had a bad year last year, and what is worrying me about him is he had not an injury, he had an issue with his hip that would throw off his mechanics. It was hip discomfort is what I think they called it. He went on the IL a couple of times because it just couldn't figure it out. He couldn't make that hip comfortable. And he came back and he just wasn't effective. Bailey Ober, I think if you're asking me 10 years from now, who on the Twins is going to be a major league coach, Bailey Ober is a very smart dude. He's like a 6'11", came in, was drafted with like an 89 mile an hour fastball. The Twins tweaked his mechanics so that he could throw 93, 94. And he can do a lot of things when he is healthy. But I just alluded, he's 6'9", 6'10", in height. Like every giant pitcher they've ever had, that's a lot to keep in sync for your mechanics. And when you have hip discomfort that is throwing off those mechanics, weirdly enough, it throws off his velocity. And I say weirdly enough because you can watch a Bailey Ober start and just look at the velocity and see if his mechanics are right. Because he gained that velocity because the Twins showed him how to get those mechanics in motion. When they're off, he drops to like 89, 88 miles an hour. So if he can be 92, 93, which, to be honest, is a below average fastball, especially in 2026, Ober can do a lot of things. He's a very smart dude who can figure it out. He also, like I said, his extension, I think, is 99th or 100th percentile. So he does gain a perceived, like, his fastball's actually 92, but the perception is it's 95, 96 with the extension because he's that much closer to home plate.
Yeah.
Who knows? He was on the IL twice with that hip injury. Does being off for the entire offseason fix it? We'll see. He also, we're now 3 weeks into spring training, 2 weeks into games. He has not pitched in a game. So, can't get any readings on him. It's not necessarily time to, like, read much into that. But if he doesn't play a game this week or in the next, specifically the week after that, something's up. Simeon Woods Richardson has been sneaky good. Like, and I mean, probably, I shouldn't say sneaky good. He's been better than I have probably given him credit for. He had when he came up last year, I think the reason we really talked about him is he had an issue where he blew a kiss to a first baseman and then I think immediately gave up a bomb. He went back to the minors, came up and had a really good second half. And what makes me, I guess, intrigued by Simeon Woods Richardson, he's always been like he used to be a top 100 prospect, kind of faded. He's like 23, 24. He was pushed super aggressively. His strikeout rate was really bad, and he only throws like 92, 93. So his fastball doesn't always get there. But he throws 6 pitches. Last year, he added in a splitter, and his splitter, this was just August and September, so he only threw it like 100-something times, right? But that splitter had an expecting batting average of 117 and an expecting slug of 211. That's an elite pitch if that holds up. Do I expect it to be 211? No. But pretend that expected slugging goes up to 300. That is still a fantastic pitch in which someone who is now known for 7.5 K per 9, if he can get that to 9, just dead average, he now has unlocked another part of his ceiling that I don't think people anticipated. And then he also throws 94. 93, 94. You can do something with that. So maybe he's now a number 5 starter. He might be a number 3 starter. Who knows? He's also 24, even though he's been a prospect forever. And then Taj Bradley. It's time to prove it, bud. You throw 99, you throw straight heat. It has not come together for him in the last 4 years. They traded for him for Griffin Jacks. The one thing I do want to show, I saw this today and I thought this was at least proving it. I'm going to show a Savant page for just a second for one specific thing. So his velocity, 96, whatever, all that's great. I want you to take note of his similar pitchers for velocity and movement. And these pitchers are Dylan Cease, Hunter Brown, Yamamoto, Tyler Glasnow.
And Drew Rasmussen. Why are you shading on Drew Rasmussen?
I'm very sorry to the Rasmussen family. That is a really good list to be compared to as far as your pure stuff. So it's
all those guys make a lot of money.
Yes, they do. And I hope Taj Bradley makes a lot of money someday.
With another team, right?
It will be for another team, but that's all I can hope for right now. I have 3 more years of team control. What I will say, he probably needs to stop throwing what would be perceived to be his best pitch. Again, he just hit 99 yesterday. That fastball has a expected slug of 474. Last year it got hit at 535. That's not great. His cutter has a 439 expected slug. So maybe he had some bad luck going on to his 4-seam last year, but it could be a picks mix thing, but who knows? He's 26. Oh, he's 24, so he's on the younger side, but he does have looks at his stats, almost 400 innings in the majors. He's not new. If anything, that's a young veteran. Time to prove it.
The problem is, he wasn't performing well with the Rays. And, that should be the team that always gets the best out of these guys.
I agree with you. I have one counterpoint, and that is Joe Ryan was traded for a very old Nelson Cruz, and the Twins turned him into something the Rays couldn't. Now, do I want to dance with the Rays and play that game of chicken a lot? Nope. Sure as hell don't. I don't think I'm going to win that dance a lot. But I do feel like if the Twins do something well, is it at least developing pitching? We'll see. They need to prove it. But Bradley, I think he also kind of knows it too. He was going to pitch in the WBC for Mexico. Once Pablo Lopez went down for Tommy John surgery, he basically said, I kind of feel like I have a spot to lose at this point. I'm not going to risk it. So I'm hoping maybe the wake-up call from being traded from Tampa to Minnesota, and also he has opportunity. This might be a turnaround, but that'll be remain to see. The stuff is there, though. Again, I didn't just show you that list of basically 4 Cy Young candidates and Drew Rasmussen. Sorry, Drew. To not... there's hope there, but
Bradley, the one thing I'll point out is I just checked. He's got, as you said, those almost 400 innings pitched. He has more innings pitched than all the Guardians starters I mentioned, except for Tanner Bybee.
Yep.
He's got more than Gavin Williams, more than Slate Ciccone, etc.
Yeah, I mean he's 24, so this is not a make or break here. I think this is make or break as a starter. Because he throws 99 as a starter, you can do a lot of damage in the bullpen if you're throwing 1 inning at a time. So I think that's really where his career might go. You hope it's a starter, but that's going to kind of be up how he performs. So those are the 4 things.
Go ahead, Lee.
I'm looking at his baseball reference page because I wanted to see how he performed when he moved to the Twins. His ERA and his FIP went up, but his strikeouts went up a good amount. So there's he went from 7.7 strikeouts per 9 to 9.2. So that's.
Here's what I will say about the Twins is and Fangraphs did this to them last year. Fangraphs for the last 3 years thought the Twins were going to have, not this year, talk about that in a minute. The Twins had the bullpen as the best projected bullpen in baseball, and their starting rotation was not top, but similar. Overinflated from the actual results. The Twins' expected numbers are consistently better than their actual numbers. And that's true for Griffin Jax. That was true for Emilio Pagan back in the day. That can be true for Taj Bradley. Their expected numbers, and I am an expected numbers guy, doesn't always hit the reality. So like that is interesting that you point that out because he did have a stretch where Bradley did have a stretch where he was very good, but then he had like 3 clunkers, like lost in the first inning type starts. So who knows? But his ERA I think was 6 for the Twins overall, and that's not what you want to see.
That suggests to me that the Twins weren't catching the baseball.
There is also that. We're going to talk about their defense in just a minute, Dan. So thank you for the foreshadow.
Fantastic.
All right, let's move off from the 4 locks. This to me is the fight, and to me, there's not much of a fight anymore. And by the fight, I mean the 5th spot in the rotation. Zebby Matthews, Mick Abel, David Festa. They just acquired Mick Abel in the Joan Duran deal. Zebby Matthews has been a starter for them for a couple of years, and then David Festa. David Festa's done with a shoulder impingement. He's going to start the year on the IL. He has never been healthy to the point where he's probably going to the bullpen after this. There's no reason to send him back to AAA. He has really good stuff. He throws 4 or 5 pitches well, so like this does kind of hurt. But also, we're going to talk about this bullpen in a minute. I just think it's time. There's no reason he should be as a starter anymore. I think you can find better options. I will say the same thing about Zebby Matthews, but not for injury related. Zebby has been somewhat healthy, and Zebby in the minor leagues is an extreme strike thrower. I mean, his strikeout to walk ratio was literally like 25-1, like just an absurd amount of strikeouts to watch. In the majors, that really hasn't translated. And I think it's because his fastball is maybe a little bit more hittable than the 99 miles an hour would suggest. And he also doesn't really have that great of an off-speed pitch, except for he has a really good slider. There are a lot of relievers who can throw 100 miles an hour, throw a great slider, and they can make a heck of a career. I am all on board of Zebby Matthews moving to the bullpen today. I don't see him doing that well as a starter anymore.
He has really good stuff.
Yes.
It doesn't exist after like the 4th inning, it seems.
Yes.
What I've watched.
Which is another reason to put him in the bullpen, because you only need to see those guys once. And especially like the phrase that I put in my notes, he needs to be on the Joan Duran plan. When Duran was moved, he was a starting pitcher up until the Twins had him start opening day as a reliever. And Duran was not a 1 inning at a time guy that first year. He eventually became that because he turned out to be like the 2nd best pitcher in the world. Sorry, the 2nd or 3rd best reliever in the world, because he could throw 103. He had a good splinker. He had and also a very good curveball. But he was only a reliever for 6 weeks before he broke the opening day roster with the Twins. Zebby's been in the majors for like 2 years now. He has, I think, nearly 200 innings in the majors. The fastball is just hittable. It just is. Now, does that mean that his fastball is going to be any less hittable in the bullpen? Well, he throws 99 now. You think if he's throwing 1 inning at a time, maybe he throws 101, 102. For every mile an hour of fastball added, that is 10 points of batting average taken off of the expected numbers. So that should help. But also, sorry, to go back to my point too, Zebby is, he can pitch 2 innings at a time. He can go once through the lineup if you need him to that first year. But I just don't see it as a starter anymore. So by default, this fight for the last spot in the rotation should go to Mick Abel, who they just traded for at the trade deadline. Mick Abel throws a lot of plus pitches. The problem, like Nuke Lelouch in Bull Durham, you don't know where they're landing. He could hit the backstop. He could hit the clutch. He could dot a fastball just on the corner. You're not quite sure. But as far as someone that I'm gonna like probably trust as a fifth inning spot with a lot of upside, I would just go to Mick Abel. He dominated AAA, like sub 3 ERA, outrate like really good strikeout to walk ratio. Sorry, really good strikeout ratio. I feel better about him. He's also 23 years old. There's no reason to send him back to AAA, so like I feel like he by default should go to the rotation. But with that said, that means the starting depth is now 5 deep. And if you're going to move Zebi and Festa to the bullpen, I just don't think they're going to do that. So one of these guys on the screen is going to AAA. Festa, like I said, I feel pretty confident Festa is going to be in the bullpen. And he also has a lot of good stuff too. He can probably throw 98, 99 if he's in the bullpen. Zebi is probably going to start. It's either going to be Zebi or Mick Abel for the fifth spot. Zebi, because he's been in the majors for a while, I'm going to guess he gets the leg up, but I personally would give that spot to Abel.
Something concerns me about Abel, and it's the fact that 4 times he was a top 100 prospect.
Yes.
21, 22, 23, 24. And I talked about that a bunch with the Guardians players. There was a lot of injuries. Abel also has thrown 100 innings in all of those years.
Yep.
So if he is such a great prospect and he was healthy, why hasn't he made the majors in a more? Why didn't he graduate to the majors quicker? And that just makes me feel like there's a red flag there.
I would say so. One, he's 23 years old. But like I even made the joke when you were doing the Guardians one. Being on the top 100 prospect list, that's a good thing. Being on it 4 times, multiple, like once or twice, that's great. 3 and 4, there's a red flag there. Like, why are you not graduating to the majors type thing? Unless you're like just an absurdly, like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. was like a top prospect for like 6 years because he got signed at 16 and was just always on the list until he graduated. But even then, I think he debuted at like 20, something like absurdly young. Abel, I guess it does say that he's 24 years old. He made his debut. I was looking at the wrong one. The Phillies have had a pretty good rotation. So like they kind of had they didn't feel the need to play him necessarily. But the point is made.
He also didn't knock the door down.
Well,
it seems to get there.
That's the easy counterpoint is Abel, who was legitimately great in the minors, certainly didn't get the call, or he did a little bit for the Phillies last year, but like he didn't get the call to kick someone out of the rotation. And when he did play in the majors last year, you can see that 6.23 ERA does not do well.
It did not go well for him. That 1.5 whip is just
not great.
But he has 39 strikeouts in 39 innings.
He does. I'm about to say the strikeout, the stuff is there. It's just, will he be able to spot it? And also, if he needs to throw a strike, can he have some command in the zone? Or does he have to groove a fastball because it's 3-1 and he absolutely is desperate for a strike? Because that will not play in the majors.
Is he just throwing all the stuff that going outside of the zone to get swing and miss, but he can't actually dot anything?
So that's the rotation. We can go on to the bullpen. This is a dartboard bullpen. Throw a dart, whatever it lands on, it could happen. I have no effing idea. I have like 10 names, 10, 12 names that could possibly make this bullpen. All of them are correct. I think they will all see time in the majors for the Twins, with the exception of like 1 or 2 guys that we'll talk about in a second. These 6 guys, I feel pretty comfortable are going to make the bullpen for one reason or another. I will say I have Liam Hendriks on there. That might be a little bit of a stretch. But if Liam Hendriks, who again has not pitched in a game, they just signed him 2 weeks ago. He's an old dude. He needs to get warmed up. I don't necessarily care. Liam Hendriks can probably get warmed up in 10 days for a bullpen role. He's done this once or twice in his life. If Hendriks can throw 95, that's it. He will be the closer for the Twins. Convinced. Mainly because no one else is going to be able to do it. Taylor Rogers, kind of the same thing. He's going to throw 91, 92. He honestly might be the setup guy starting the season, which is not great. He's really taken a step back. He's in his upper 30s now, or lower to mid 30s right now. He throws 92, 93. Anthony Bonda, the one note I have on him is, can you face right-handed batters? Because if he can, he's probably the best reliever in this bullpen. If he can at least pretend to pitch against right-handed pitching. The Dodgers didn't let him pitch against right-handed pitching. They really didn't. The Twins, I don't think, are going to have that luxury of the choice. The other name, Justin Topa and Cole Sands, who are the only two on the screen who have the Twins baseball hat in their roster or on their profile page, because I spent last year with the Twins. Topa, just your average 6th or 7th inning guy. He's fine, but considering he's probably like 4th up in this bullpen, that's not what you want to see. The guy with some upside is Cole Sands. He's very similar to me to Griffin Jacks, not to put that out there on him, but he throws 4 or 5 pitches. He's a failed starter. He did have a really good 2024 where he could be like an 8th inning guy. Last year, it just was clunky. He pitched a lot of innings, mainly out of necessity. He didn't strike out as many guys as he used to. His walk rate went up a little bit. We'll see with him. If he can go back to 2024, great, but I also don't know how much I expect that to him. So those are the guys that I feel pretty confident are going to make the bullpen.
I'm surprised you're that high on Hendricks making this team. Just the fact that he hasn't pitched in so long, he hasn't been healthy. Like, I get that it would be a good story, and what do the Twins have to lose necessarily? But I'm just surprised.
There's a difference between what will happen, what I think will happen, and how high I am on a guy. Who else will close out games in this bullpen if it's not Liam Hendricks?
There are about four guys I would probably have closed. 3 guys that I would have closed before Liam Hendricks on this page.
Bonda, Rogers,
Rogers, and Sands. I would have closed before.
All of which are legit. And honestly, like, if you gave me an over-under, like, if I gave you the the Twins at the end of the year, who's going to lead the Twins in saves and what is that number? That over-under is probably like 15.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
All of these guys, Sands, Hendricks, Rogers, Bonda, they all might have 10 saves. That's assuming the Twins have 40 wins. 40 close games to win. But I'm going to assume if the Twins win a game this year, there are going to be a lot of close ones.
Not to be mean, how many guys do you think will be on this team in July that are on the screen right now? Whether they're DFA'd or traded, like how many of them do you think
3
are going to actually be pitching games for the Twins in August?
Sands, Bonda, Orzi. Well, I didn't even really talk about Eric Orzi. Eric Orzi is probably like a 6th guy up in a bullpen. He's fine. He has some upside. I mean, if Hendricks and Rogers and Topa are any good and the Twins need to sell, they're gone. There's no reason to keep them. So I'll say those 3. This other list is like this is a whatever man list. Travis Adams, Dan Adavila, Cody Thunderberg, Andrew Chafin, Zach Kent, Matt Bowman. All of which have major league experience. The Twins just picked up Zach Kent last week, or like 3 days ago off of waivers. Was with Cleveland last year, so Dan probably knows about him more than I do. Seems like he has a decent fastball, but like he really is like reliever guy C. Like, it's just random reliever.
He was the shuttle guy all for a good portion of last year. He was up and down. When we needed the arm, he would come up, and then we'd send him back down to AAA.
Yep, that's probably the role he should be at. With the Twins, he has an actual chance of making this bullpen. He's one of the younger guys, but I think he's like 27, 28, so he's not even that young anymore. Matt Bowman has been like a journeyman reliever. He's the 2nd time with the Twins. Cody Thunderberg really did show something at the end of last year, but he's 26, 27. He's a lefty, and a lot of this, like Taylor Rogers, I didn't talk about this last slide, but Taylor Rogers and Anthony Bonda are already left-handed pitchers. On this list, Funderburk and Chafin are also lefties. There's a very real possibility that there's going to be 4 left-handed relievers on this bullpen, and that is an absurd amount of relievers that are left-handed in one bullpen. For Chafin, I don't know. I'm going to talk about him. Sorry, Lee. I don't think he's going to make the roster, only because and he's a veteran. He doesn't need to throw hard, but he's topped out at 87, and that's been about what his Savant page has said. He's been consistently 84. It's to the point where Savant rates his fastball as a changeup. And that's whatever. He's going to throw junk and he's going to read pitches and all of that. But at some point, you really can't live in today's baseball with an 86-mile-an-hour fastball.
Well, yeah, he's from 1985. Look at his hair.
He is. And everyone says he looks like Rod Beck, and he does. But it's not Rod Beck's generation anymore.
Look at
Dan,
his mustache.
It's a great mustache.
I really like him. He was fun.
I mean, what he could make it if he makes this bullpen, it's going to be under the screw it, why not category, but it's not going to be necessarily off of merit. To me,
I hope there's a good trailer park near Minneapolis because he likes to live in a trailer.
Yes, there is plenty of trailer parks in Minneapolis. I can assure you of that. But I mean, whatever. I think if he does make the bullpen, it's going to be because he's not going to be afraid to be put in the 8th inning because he's closed. He's been in so many 8th innings before. It's not going to phase him. So I'll say the same thing about Dan Adavila, who throws 97. He's 32. Seems like it's a very hittable fastball for 97. He might make it, whatever. Travis Adams was one of their lone prospects they actually used in the bullpen last year, but they didn't use him as a true one-inning reliever. He really hasn't looked good, but also he was never really a highly sought prospect up until he's not even highly sought now, but he got to the majors because the Twins did this piggyback. He's going to pitch once or twice through the lineup type guy. That worked out well for him. He could play up his stuff a little bit. He could throw a little bit harder. He got to the majors when honestly, this time last year, Travis Adams probably didn't think he would ever make the majors. So good for him, but I don't think he's going to have much of a career in the majors. Not to be harsh on him, but there's how many of these guys are on the team. I don't effing know.
If you had
Andrew
to pick
Chafin
two,
and Zach Kent.
those are your 2. If you had to pick 2,
Funderburk. If I had to pick 3, probably Funderburk, Chafin, Kent.
I do think if one of them can pitch high leverage, having 3 lefties in a bullpen isn't an issue.
Yeah. Well, especially if you're going to
4
use
is
Taylor
excessive.
Rogers. If you're going to use Taylor Rogers as the 8th inning guy, then you really don't have 2 lefties in your bullpen. Because you're planning on using Rogers independent of the matchup.
Yep.
You're
Agreed.
using Cody Funderburk and Andrew Chafin as lefty specialists, and that's it.
You could have a 7th inning guy that's a lefty and an 8th inning guy. Bonda and Rogers.
Yep, it'll work out just great, right? That's why everyone has 4 lefties in their bullpen. Yeesh. Okay. We'll move on to the. So I guess I'll point out to a couple guys just for the bullpen. So this is actually I'll save all the rookies to the end because that's what it's going to really be. So I'm going to move on to the lineup. This is all of the infield. I think the lineup is pretty much set. Whether you have a high opinion or a low opinion can definitely vary, and I don't blame you for having a low opinion, especially for a lot of these guys. So on the screen, Luke Keeschel, Loris Lewis, Brooks Lee, Ryan Jeffers, Cody Clemens, Josh Bell. These are guys that are going to get 350 plate appearances up to a full season worth of plate appearances. Cody Clemens had a nice year last year. He certainly deserves a spot on this roster, but to be honest with you, if he has another 386 plate appearances, probably not a good signal for the Twins. I'd like him to be closer to 250 to 300. He has good power for a left-handed hitter. He can play some second. He can play first. He can play some of the corners. He can be a bench player for a decent major league team. But the more he plays, it probably shows you how stretched out you are as an offense. Josh Bell has been very consistent for his entire career. 20 home runs, 250 batting average, has been everywhere. Really bad defensively, though. Like, really bad. To the point where I think it has literally cost him half of his career WAR was because he played first base. He has a career 8 WAR, but I think if you take out the defensive runs against, he would jump up to 16. I don't think that's even much of an exaggeration. I think that's pretty true. But just for a bat, great. Love it. They needed a bat. Ryan Jeffers is, I think, a little bit of an underrated catcher. I don't think he's necessarily great for the metrics that he's not a great pitch framer. He's not a great, he doesn't have a great arm. They're below average in there, but they're slightly below average. They're not like atrocious. Pitchers like throwing to him. Seems like a genuinely smart dude. He is a 105. Last year he had a 108 OPS plus, which for a catcher is really good. What's interesting about him, too, is he completely changed his philosophy at the plate. He used to be an all-or-nothing power guy. Last year, he really went to, like, more contact. So he hit 9 home runs when I think he is used to averaging 20. And I think his career batting average was, like, 225 or something like that. He had 266 last year. A little bit more patient. He's just a good catcher. He's a starting catcher, but he might be on the lower end of a starting catcher. Brooks Lee, Royce Lewis, Luke Keeschel, I think, are all kind of in the same boat. Actually, I'll break them up a little bit. So Brooks Lee has been a high contact, high batting average everywhere he has gone, except when he's been in the majors. He can put the bat on the ball anytime he wants, but not all contact is created equal. You cannot just swing at slop, because pitchers want you to swing at slop so that you just bounce out to the second baseman and it's an easy out. Brooks Lee is not a burner. He is not fast. He is going to use his baseball IQ and his and just kind of like the tools he has to be a passable shortstop. If he can bring his batting average up, he could be a good player. I kind of think he probably should be a good bench player. On a good team. I don't think he should be a starting shortstop for a team necessarily, but he has all the time to prove me wrong. I'll say for anyone on this list outside of Luke Keeschel, Brooks Lee only really has a full season of plate appearances. He has like 700 career plate appearances, which is just over a full year. He has time to prove it around, but he is 25 years old. Royce Lewis, we've been down this road before. Stay healthy, and I don't know what this Royce Lewis has been the last 2 years. Part of me thinks this might just be the Royce Lewis we have right now. He's not a superstar. He had an 83 OPS plus last year. He just wasn't really that good of a player. He did play better in August and September, just to give you just a little bit of hope that superstar that he showed 2 years ago is still in there somewhere. Honestly, if he has like a 105 OPS plus and plays a good third base, that's all I want from Royce Lewis. I don't need 140 OPS plus Royce Lewis. I love that, but I just don't think that's in the tank anymore. He's had too many injuries. He's lost a lot of speed, a lot of mobility. He's put on some muscle. We'll see. And then Luke Keeschel was like the sole bright spot for new players on the Twins last year. Played really well, and then got hit in the forearm with a pitch, broke his forearm, and then he was out for 2 months. Wouldn't you know? He's probably a bit stretched at second base. He should probably be playing left field, where I think he would actually be a plus defender. At second base, the only reason he's in the infield is because he had Tommy John surgery the year before that, and they didn't want to stretch the arm. And then he played phenomenal when he was. You'll see he had a 302 batting average, 382 on base, an OPS plus of 128. Do I expect 128 OPS plus from Luke Keeschel this year? No. 115 I think would be great. And that's all I would kind of really want from him. So that's the infield. Any thoughts on the infield?
What would be a successful season to you for Luke Keeschel? Coming off of the kind of the potential that he showed, but also, it was a truncated season for him, obviously.
He doesn't hit for a lot of power, so if he can do 110, 105 to 110 OPS plus, he's one of those, like, I think he will be very popular in Minnesota. he runs the bases well. He's aggressive. He is an athlete. He can do a lot of things well without having to hit for a lot of average. So if he's just an above average offensive player, he can still be an all-star caliber player.
And do you think going left to right, uh, Lewis Lee, Keishel, Bell is kind of the most common infield you'll see on a day-to-day basis
Yes, you can
with
swap.
Jeffers behind the plate?
You can swap. So Jeffers, Clemens, Bell, I think are going to be more platoon days off more than
Okay.
anything. Lee, Lewis, Keishel, I think will be your starting at least second, third, and shortstop for most of the season. Okay, we'll go to the outfield quick. I have 5 guys listed here, only because basically StatHead only allows you to search for 6 players, and I had to fit a lot of people on a limited number of pages here. So Byron Buxton, we know what Byron Buxton is. He's great, fantastic when he's on the field. He was healthy finally for a full season, played 126 games. If he's healthy, he's great. I want him to be healthy and great because he's a lot of fun to watch. The rest of the outfield is really not as inspiring. Matt Wallner, I think with the question with him, he's a crappy left-handed power hitting outfielder, right? His strikeout rate is getting to be alarming. It is getting to be in the Miguel Sano, Joey Gallo territory, like 6th percentile on Baseball Savant. If he can limit the strikeouts, and I don't care if he makes more contact, because like honestly, he could probably swing a little bit less hard and still make a little bit more contact. He has a lot of power. He's like 6'3", 6'4", like 250. This is a big dude. He does not need to swing that hard for the ball to go very, very far. When he does connect, that ball soars. But you can only strike out at a 35% clip for so long before you're unplayable. He's 26. He doesn't seem like the type of player to me that is going to age particularly graceful. So we'll see. Trevor Larnach, I guess he's a little bit more consistent. He's not as consistent as I want him to be because he's had a 114 career OPS plus in a season. He's had a 90 OPS plus season. I've seen enough about Trevor Larnach. He's a crappy defensive left-handed power hitter who doesn't really have that much power because he hit 17 home runs in 550 plate appearances last year. You look at him and you think, oh, this dude can mash. And about once or twice a year, you will see him hit like a 450-foot home run to dead center, something really impressive. And you think that makes sense. But it's fine. He sets a decent floor, though, I will say. He's probably going to be splitting platoon time with Josh Bell in DH. And then the one guy I'm kind of high on, well, I guess there's one or two. Alan Roden was the sole guy they traded for at the trade deadline that actually was in the lineup like the next day after the trade deadline. Everyone else got sent to AAA. He didn't play well. I will say when he's in the minors, he has like a 330 average with a good on base and like a decent slug. We've talked about AAA as maybe a little bit of a bandbox, so like you do have to take that into account. But like he has no reason to go back to AAA anymore. He should be the opening day left fielder. It's going to kind of depend if he can also play center field, which I think he can. He is a good defensive left-handed hitter. And then Austin Martin kind of saved his career in the last 2 months. For Austin Martin, I just need him to be Jonathan India. I do not expect much more than him. If he can have a 100 OPS plus for a career, play passable defense at second and the corners, can run, can steal a base once in a while, that's all I want. I want him to just be a good bench player. I don't expect much from Austin Martin. Just be those things. If you want to prove me wrong and do more than that, great. But he can be a good bench player on a good team. And the bench. Not going to spend a whole lot of time on these guys. It's kind of a... You'll
It's
see.
not the most inspiring group of individuals.
No. You'll also notice none of them have a Twins hat on from the last year. So, like, the Twins are certainly patching this together. Austin Jackson, they just traded for. So, unless the Twins are going to carry 3 catchers, because they have Victor Carantini, Brian Jeffers, and Alex Jackson, I don't know if he makes the rosters, but in that case, he's also making $1.6 million. He does have a guaranteed contract, so he might make it off there. Orlando Arcia and Tristan Gray are really battling it out for the shortstop role. Not pictured here is folk hero Ryan Kreidler, who probably isn't going to make the roster, even though I want him to, because I can shove it in Lee's face every time he does anything remotely good in a baseball field. If any of them can hit 200 and can play a good shortstop, that's all it's going to matter. And then, the ghost is back in my house again. The rest, Eric Wagaman, first base, DH. He's a right-handed hitter, which would give him a bit of a leg up. And then James Outman, who they traded for Brock Stewart. I don't know if James Outman's going to make this roster. If he does, it's because he's out of options, and they don't want to risk losing him, which would mean then Alan Roden would go back to AAA, which I really don't want. So, to me, I don't care about James Outman. I've seen enough of him. He's been in the major for 5 years. He hasn't been impressive outside of 1 year. And, yeah, I'm kind of over it. So, that's the bench.
Of that group, who would you most expect to actually contribute?
Carantini. But that's the easy answer. Yeah. I mean, there's such like an obvious drop-off between, like, decent major league player to AAA depth.
I think Carantini could play some first. He could DH.
Yes.
He could contribute outside of just kind of sharing catching reps with Jeffers for sure.
Yes, and that's what he's in here for. He has a 2-year deal. Jeffers is in his last year, so he is right now. You can pin him in as the starting catcher next year. Everyone else, it's like it doesn't matter. Like, the Twins, like I said, are in a transition year. Whether you believe they're going to be good next year or not, or this year or not, can be certainly up for interpretation. But this just isn't these guys, there's 4 guys on this list that probably aren't major league players. And we could probably each think of a different list that of the 6 on this list is probably what the main point is. So, I will say all of that. It's been very depressing. Had my whiskey. Where's the hope? The hope is the Twins have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of their top 30 prospects in AAA ready to take over a spot. And in case you were wondering, Eric, you seemed like you were pretty firm and pretty high on the bench and the depth in this roster. Why would they need more depth, and why would they need their prospects to come up? Well, that depth isn't going to hold. So what gives me hope? Walker Jenkins, Kalen Culpepper, and Emmanuel Rodriguez. We've talked about Rodriguez on our prospect episode. There is a lot to worry about with Rodriguez. There truly is. There's a lot of swing and miss, but there's also a lot of tools that make you really excited for him. He does not swing at bad pitches. He walks a lot. His on-base percentage is almost absurd. 459, 431, 400, 492. That is absurd, even at a minor league level. His batting average has been better, but 280, 269. Probably put 50 points of batting average going from AAA to the majors on his card, and then that's probably it. But he's also not. You would think someone with that prospect, like with that profile, doesn't do anything well. He can play center field. He has a good arm. So if he hits for 210 and hits 25 home runs and plays a good outfield, that's still a pretty good player. But also, if you ask me 3 years from now, is Emmanuel Rodriguez playing in Korea? I can also see that happening too. If it clicks, though, man, there's such a ceiling for this dude. The guy I am really excited for is Kalen Culpepper. Drafted 2 years ago. Doesn't have a singular tool that sticks out, but they're all just good. And also, this power they need to update. I'm showing you the 2025 prospects. He hit 20 home runs. He had 20 home runs last year. He would have been in AAA, but he kind of stumbled near the end, so they kept him in AA. I do expect him to start the year in AAA, in which case put 2 months together. We just talked about how I thought Brooksley was a little bit stretched. Where I don't think Kalen Culpepper will be a starting shortstop maybe by this third year of arbitration, but he can play shortstop at least in the intermediate. He's 23 years old. He has done really well in double and triple A. So single and double A. Really excited for him. He's the guy I'm kind of pushing for. And then the crown jewel in the farm system is Walker Jenkins, who looks like if you're going to build a creative player in the road to the show, Walker Jenkins is who you end up making. He's 6'3", 210, hit, power, just a really good prospect to have. Has had some injury concerns, but I mean, he's 21 years old, hitting in AAA. There's only so many players that were that young in AAA that don't at least become at least regulars in the majors. We'll see. He has to do it. He also has to stay healthy. So really excited for him. Other guys I'm just going to mention very quickly. Gabriel Gonzalez is built like a fire hydrant. He's 5'10". This 165 is probably about 30 pounds under where he's actually at, but he has a unique profile in that he has a big hit tool, but he does not have a lot of power. He doesn't run very well. He doesn't field very well. I don't care what this fielding says on MLB Pipeline. He's interesting. And then I will also point out just a couple guys. Ricardo Olivar is 25 years old. He has a decent hitting catcher outfielder tandem. Kalai Rosario is also going to be in AAA. He's been a prospect forever. Big power, not much anything else. But if looking for him, he could at least be a platoon guy.
Do you have two guys named Culpepper?
Yes, CJ Culpepper is at least a decent pitcher, and AA, and then yes, Kalen.
Are they no relation?
I mean, Lee, do I have to show you their pictures, and do you need to ask that? I mean, maybe there was a dad left for cigarettes at one point, but I don't think.
It's just such a uncommon name. It's like, are they related?
Well, then you also had. Lee, this might be before your time, but like the Minnesota Vikings had Dante Culpepper was a quarterback for the Vikings in like 2005.
No, I do not remember 2005 Minnesota quarterbacks.
I remember he would always do this to tell people to huddle, and it was the stupidest thing ever because he'd do it in the second quarter.
He was on the cover of Madden 2002.
He was, and did not do well. That was when the Madden curse was in full effect.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, a game that came out the year I was born. Yeah, I remember it clearly.
Learn your history, Lee.
Old man.
I
do have a question.
Yep.
For Jenkins, Rodriguez, and Culpepper in particular, what do you think the road is this year, if it is this year, to the majors? Is that mid-season? Is that September? Are you expecting anything to make the team opening day? And is that involve, people like Larnick and Wallner being exited from this roster?
Not opening day, but I don't know if you know this, but the Twins get injured a lot.
That's true. That's valid.
Suspicious amount. The only one I could see Emmanuel. I think there's a very slim chance Emmanuel Rodriguez makes the opening day roster because he can play center field. But do you really want one of your top prospects to ride the bench 3 days a week, or do you just want to play him?
Especially when you have a really good center fielder. One of the things we kind of didn't dwell on is Byron Buxton in the first place. You put something negative out in the air for me, so I'm going to do the same to you. What kind of mixed feelings would you have if Buxton goes down, but it means that, say, Walker Jenkins gets promoted to the majors?
That's going to be the only saving grace. Like, if Buxton goes down, and here's the thing. There has not been a year in Byron Buxton's career he has not gone on the IL. He will be on the IL this year. It's just whether if it's going to be for 2 months or 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So, like, it's going to happen. I think the order they will be called up, Emmanuel Rodriguez would be called up first, Walker Jenkins, and then Culpepper, I think, will be called up. But also, like, Gabriel Gonzalez can get called up. Like, they have some other guys they can call up too.
Well, let me ask you this. Is there any reason why Kalen Culpepper shouldn't play over Brooksley today?
I would honestly probably do that. The only thing he has never played.
You're high on Culpepper too, so.
I'm really high on him, so like, of course, I'm going to say do, because also I'm not very
Yeah.
high on Brooks Lee, but Brooks Lee only has a year worth of plate appearances, to be honest. So
Yeah.
maybe I'm being too harsh on him. If he can figure it out, and like, he's a coach's kid. He went to play college baseball for his dad in California. He was a first round pick. Blah 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 blah. He's a smart dude who can figure it out. I just don't know if the tools are there, but we'll see.
Don't need to rush it. I was just curious.
But like, to me, like, Culpepper's played in Double A. If he had finished the year in Triple A, I think look at him a little bit more seriously. I think May. Look at him in May, and then you can figure it out from there. Walker Jenkins, if he hits 330 the first month, you'll see him in the second month. Emmanuel Rodriguez, probably the same thing.
I'm going to ask you the same thing that I asked Dan earlier. If they make the playoffs, what is the reason? If they don't make the playoffs, what is the reason? I mean,
Can I answer the first one for Eric first?
yeah.
Go ahead.
Divine intervention.
I won't go that far.
Sorry.
If they make the playoffs, it's going to be because players on this list that I just listed off, Jenkins, Culpepper, Rodriguez, Gonzalez. I haven't even gone over the relievers that I think, like Connor Prelip, Marco Raya, Andrew Morris. It's going to be those guys taking a step forward, and then like a Royce Lewis or Brooks Lee taking a step forward. So I went over, I guess, like, are they going to make the playoffs? I don't expect them to. I think Fangraphs and Zips both have them at 20%. Last week, you guys thought to seem that was a little bit high. There is a world. I think 20% is about right. Do I expect it to? No, I don't. If it does, though, it's going to be because Zebby Matthews, David Fester are now in the bullpen. You're going to have Connor Prelip called up from AAA. And like, the bullpen's going to figure itself out. It's at least going to be manageable up until the young guys can take it over. Because the bullpen is so ready for the picking for young guys just to take a spot. Like, wide open the first month someone can take a spot. The Twins are going to start weeding out. Like, Josh Bell's on a 1-year contract. Cody Clemens isn't going to last that long. It's really Keishel, Buxton. I don't even think Royce Lewis can count to be on this team if he doesn't have a good year next year. I think Brooks Lee, you can probably give him a little bit more grace, but probably not much more. Trevor Larnach shouldn't be on this roster now. And I think Matt Wallner might be trade bait at the deadline if they have Rodriguez and Jenkins ready to go.
And why would they not make the playoffs?
Have you been listening the last hour? That's why everyone plays like they did last year.
It's a great question for teams like the Royals or the Guardians, not
right. We'll see. I expect them to win somewhere between 70 and 75 games.
Do you think they will be higher than the White Sox in the standings?
No.
That's the big one. Ooh.
But I think it'll be close because I think if the Twins win 73 games, I think the White Sox will win like 75.
Yeah.
But I also think like between the whole division is not going to be like this. It's going to be this. Like, I can see a world where the division, the worst team is 75 games and the best team is 85. Like, it can be that much
Really?
of a cramped. Well, like, that's the only way that works out, right? Because like, they're going to play together.
It's like the Temu version of the AL East.
Yes.
I think Detroit's better than that, but that's a whole other
Detroit
thing
won
for
what,
the
86,
Tigers
87
preview.
games last season? 87? Like, there's no way they should be going down in wins.
Yep. So, with that, we have blathered on about the Twins for probably longer than they deserve, but
And the Guardians.
that's all right. So I think with that, this is by far our longest episode. So I will probably break this up into 2 parts just so people can digest it a little bit more. But I think with that, unless you guys have any closing thoughts, I think we can put a bow on this one.
Have fun. Thank you.
All right. With that, we will see you guys next week. It'll be a preview of someone. Maybe we thought doing 2 teams was doable in under 2 hours. I think this episode proves probably not, but we'll see. But we'll see.